This is an ordinary paralysis ring. Being left to gather dust in the warehouse seems to be its fate. But the moment I laid eyes on it, I decided to forge it into a god-tier item. My classmates immediately started mocking me as a complete fool. They said a useless support profession doesn't have any real potential. Even the principal hurriedly revoked my graduation scholarship. What they didn't realize was, I possess a god-level talent for forging. This talent not only guarantees a 100% success rate in enhancements, it also always adds extra talent attributes. At this moment, I am on the arena platform, facing off against a classmate who awakened a combat talent. Suddenly, a fierce gust of fiery wind swept through. I was sent crashing heavily off the platform. You're too weak. Yi Han. Combat professions and crafting professions are fundamentally incomparable. I gazed at Su Hui across from me. A rare combat profession, the fire mage, while I am merely a forging artisan from a crafting profession. Watching the word Su Hui wins appear on the screen, the students in the audience immediately began discussing. You didn't know, did you? He awakened a crafting profession. He wasn't even eligible to participate in the arena battle. He insisted on stepping up to the stage himself. Crafting profession. Isn't that just a total loser? I stood up and brushed off my clothes, looking completely helpless. It seems like life-oriented professions still can't compete with combat ones. Feeling a slight sense of disappointment inside, I had thought that with my professional combat skills, maybe I could hold my own against combat professions. But I didn't expect to be completely crushed in the first match, unable to fight back at all. As I was pondering what path to take next, Teacher Su Qilan came running over in a hurry. Student Yi Han, are you all right? He seemed to notice my disappointment. Immediately offered words of comfort. I understand that this might be hard for you to accept, but life-based professions and combat-based professions simply aren't comparable. However, as long as you focus on leveraging your professional skills and provide equipment support for the warriors on the battlefield, your future achievements will not be insignificant. I suddenly looked dazed. This world is nothing like the peaceful one I knew before I transmigrated. It has been invaded by games. Monsters from various games have swept across the globe. Fortunately, humanity has awakened panel attributes. People can enter dungeons to level up. This is how they barely managed to survive. I pondered for a while, then suddenly thought of a path that suited me. Teacher, what if my enhancement success rate is 100%? It can also include random attributes. Would this be enough to surpass combat-oriented professions? Su Qilan paused for a moment upon hearing this. Seeing the student in front of her with such a serious expression, she couldn't help but shake her head. Yi Han, I understand that awakening to a life profession has been a huge blow to you, but I've never heard of anyone who could achieve a 100% success rate in enhancement. You awakened as a forge master. There are still plenty of schools that will accept you. I immediately understood. Su Qilan thought I was just speaking out of anger. But I glanced at my attribute panel, and a sly grin appeared on my face, because the cheat had already been activated. Yi Han, Level 1 Forging Master. Skill, Divine Level Forging. All equipment enhanced and forged is guaranteed to succeed, and it will always come with extra attributes and additional stats. The guarantee of success alone already surpasses all other blacksmiths. Other blacksmiths still have to worry about equipment melting during enhancement, but I don't have to worry at all. I can even add extra attributes and modifiers. Su Qilan saw that I was still looking serious, and continued to reassure me by saying that as long as you showcase your abilities, the country has plenty of combat professionals available to assist, and they would even risk their lives for you without hesitation. Hearing these words, I was momentarily stunned. That's right, my forging success rate is 100%. Why would I need to step in myself? I could easily build an entire army and have them act as my enforcers. But organizing everything on my own would take an unpredictable amount of time and effort. Depending on the nation might be more efficient than depending solely on myself. Teacher, I can truly guarantee success in both strengthening and forging. It can also enhance unique attributes and special entries. Su Qilan let out a bitter smile. He felt I might be rambling a bit after being dealt such a blow. He could only comfortingly respond that if you truly had this ability, the nation would be vying to recruit you. All combat-related professions in the entire building would follow your command. Maybe We could even reclaim the lands occupied by the demon race. After hearing what Su Qilan said, a spark of inspiration lit up in my mind. Professor, do you have the equipment? I can prove right now what you're planning to do. Seeing the excitement in my eyes, Su Qilan paused for a moment. I can truly achieve a 100% enhancement, and even add unique attributes. You know me well. I never tell lies. Seeing how confident I was, Su Qilan hesitated no longer, and directly handed me a piece of equipment. As long as it could help her most outstanding student regain confidence, she was willing to risk everything, even if it meant ruining it. I took the equipment, glanced at its attributes, and finally understood why Teacher Su was so conflicted. Paralysis Ring, Silver Tier. Level requirement, 10. Enhancement level increased by 1. Attack power increased by 10. Magic power increased by 50. Skill, Paralysis. Triggers with each attack. Has a 1% chance to inflict paralysis on the opponent. The greater the level difference between the two sides, the weaker the effect becomes. Paralysis slows down reaction speed. The attributes of this equipment are not particularly strong. However, that paralyzing effect can play an unexpectedly crucial role in battle. Mr. Su places great trust in me like this. I couldn't help but feel a sense of quiet anticipation. As I spoke, I picked up the ring and silently chanted the enhancement spell. A faint glow shimmered briefly. The ring was drawn into my forging space. All enhancements require material support. Even the simplest enhancement is no exception. But I didn't have any high-quality materials on me. Only a few basic types of enhancement ores were available. After waiting for a few minutes, the success notification for enhancement finally popped up. I quickly took it out to check. Even I was shocked. A cursed golden ring. A keepable at level 10. Enhanced to level 2. Attack increased by 100. Magic increased by 500. Skill, Paralysis. Each attack by the toxin has a 2% chance to cause paralysis and guaranteed poison effects on the target. The greater the level difference between both sides, the weaker the paralysis effect and the slower the reaction speed. Guaranteed poison reduces the target's health by 2% per second. The greater the level gap between both sides, the weaker the overall effect. This noble health reduction is 100%, even though it only has a 2% trigger chance. But this directly reduces health by a percentage. It's absolutely terrifying. Just looking at the increase in base stats is already impressive. It's merely an upgrade that adds a single point to the base stats, and it directly multiplies by 10. My stunned expression made Su Qilan think the upgrade had failed. She quickly tried to comfort Yihan. It's okay, failing an upgrade is completely normal. After all, this is your first attempt. Not destroying the equipment is already a good outcome. Teacher, I did it. It really worked. Su Qilan quickly waved her hand, suddenly realizing what had happened. What did you say? It worked, I nodded. Su Qilan hurriedly took the ring. She froze instantly. Upon learning that her most valuable equipment had been successfully upgraded, he was already excited enough. But after seeing the changes on the panel, he was so shocked he couldn't speak. Is this my paralysis ring? Did you swap my gear for something else? Seeing the smile on my face, he immediately understood. Let's go see the principal right now. At this moment in the principal's office, the principal looked at them with a smile. Oh right, Yihan has awakened. What kind of profession? I remember he has always been the top student in the entire school. Several department heads shook their heads. He's just a crafting profession, a blacksmith. Even the principal shook his head. He sighed regretfully, such a pity. This is such a promising talent. At that moment, the office door was kicked open with a loud bang. Mr. Su, what are you doing? What's got you in such a hurry? The principal furrowed his brow. He noticed Su Qilan pulling me along behind her. It seemed like he understood something. Mr. Su, are you trying to secure a recommendation spot for student Yi? Su Qilan shook her head. Principal, I have an urgent matter to discuss with you. The principal also thought Yihan showed great potential. It's understandable for Mr. Su to feel anxious. I didn't hold it against him for kicking the door. The few of you who are department heads, please step outside for now. I need to discuss something with Mr. Su. Everyone else seemed quite puzzled. What could be so important that it needs to be kept from them? Su Qilan turned around, firmly closed the door, and locked it. She then checked through the window to make sure no one was outside. Finally, she pulled the curtains shut. This move left the principal feeling a bit irritated. Isn't it just about a guaranteed admission? Does it really need to be this secretive? Principal, what I'm about to say is very important. You might want to activate the signal blocker. The principal shook his head. Reluctantly, he opened the cabinet and pulled out a globe-like device. After flipping the switch, a wave of light enveloped the entire room. Su Qilan gave a slight nod, then turned her gaze toward me. Student Yi, tell the principal about your professional skills. The principal turned to look at me with a puzzled expression. When he heard that my skill guaranteed a 100% success rate in enhancement, the principal could barely remain seated. This talent is nothing short of a divine ability. As for Yi Han and Su Qilan, perhaps they have some knowledge about blacksmithing. But the principal is even more aware of how critical the shortage of frontline equipment is. Standard equipment is relatively easy to manage. It can be obtained in bulk from beasts, but advanced equipment, especially those with high enhancement levels, is always in short supply. If all gear could be fully enhanced, overall strength would improve significantly. And when I mentioned the additional stats and attributes that could be applied after enhancement, the principal was completely stunned. Are you sure you're not joking? I nodded in agreement. I can demonstrate it on the spot. The principal didn't hesitate for a second. He reached to his waist with his hand. A staff radiating a fiery aura appeared in his grasp. At first glance, you can immediately tell it's a high-level and rare magical artifact. Even so, the principal still handed the staff over to me. Can any piece of equipment be enhanced? A low-level blacksmith usually can't enhance higher-level equipment. If that's not possible, I have other pieces of equipment here. I shook my head. I can give it a try. Honestly, I haven't figured out the upper limit of my enhancement ability. It's mainly about the skill. The instructions don't mention whether high-level equipment can be enhanced. I took the staff, checked the panel. Blazing Flame Platinum Staff. Required level, 25. Enhanced to +6. Skill, Fire Seed. All fire-based attacks and skills deal 16% more damage. It seems the kernel is at least around level 30. Keep in mind that the strongest human is currently only level 79. I didn't expect the principal's rank to be so high. The principal noticed I wasn't reacting. He asked in confusion, "Why aren't you upgrading?" I don't have enhancement stones or materials. After switching my profession to a blacksmith, I bought some enhancement stones and materials, but I used them all on Mr. Su's equipment. The principal was taken aback for a moment. He silently patted the pouch on his waist. Several items suddenly appeared in my hand. There was a high-grade enhancement stone, along with a few pieces of ore that clearly looked extraordinary. Are these materials enough? I've been saving these for several years. I nodded slightly, took the materials in my hand. Holding the staff, I silently chanted an enhancement spell. In an instant, the materials and the staff entered the forging space. It took about 10 minutes or so. The enhancement isn't complete yet. The principal seemed a bit impatient. This piece of equipment is the most valuable in his possession. Don't let its average stats fool you. It boosts fire attribute damage by 16%. This is extremely rare and valuable. Make sure Yi Han doesn't ruin it during the process. How's it going? The principal asked nervously. I shook my head. The enhancement still needs a bit more time. Waited another 10 minutes. A sharp ding echoed. The panel displayed a message, "Enhancement successful." Before I could even check it, the principal snatched it away. He was stunned after just one glance. Prophecy Staff, Diamond Grade. Required level, 25 to equip. Enhancement level, +7. Magic increased by 2600. Skill, Hellfire Spark. All fire attribute attacks and skills gain a 26% damage boost. Ignores regular magic defense. The principal's hands were visibly trembling. Is this still his staff? A 26% damage boost. This enhancement effect is way too exaggerated. Moreover, the materials he provided to Yi Han were far from sufficient. In the past, he had also consulted other forging masters. The terms they offered required 5 times the materials he had. Even just using gold alone would cost nearly $1 million. Yi Han managed to succeed just like that. Moreover, the enhanced attributes and affixes were even more outrageous. Completely ignoring standard magical defenses. He swallowed hard. With trembling hands, he picked up the phone. He dialed several times. only to realize the signal jammer hadn't been turned off. After turning it off, he called the academic office, immediately informing them to spread the word. Have all the teachers come to my office. Notify the security department. The school is to enter an alert state immediately. All students should return to their classrooms. Everyone else must go back to their workstations right away. In an instant, the entire school sprang into action. Students still taking their combat exams on the field were all called back. The school gates were tightly shut, and even magic was activated. After the principal seriously made a few phone calls, he immediately turned around with a smile on his face. Student Yi, take a look. I have another piece of equipment here. Would you like to demonstrate it again? It would be perfect to record a video and send it to the Department of Education. I nodded casually. It seems the path I chose is the right one. Both the teacher and the principal take it seriously. Half an hour later, the Deputy Minister of Education in Jiangnan Province received the news. The entire Provincial Department of Education sprang into action. Immediately ordered all directors and higher-ranking officials to come to my office for a meeting. Anyone who doesn't show up shouldn't bother coming to my office again in the future. Not long after, the Department of Education activated blocking devices. The Provincial Minister of Education, He Shan, stated, everyone should sign this agreement first. Those attending the meeting had no idea what was going on. But it wasn't until the order to activate the shielding device was given that they realized the gravity of the situation. It was only then they understood how significant the matter truly was. After receiving the agreement, everyone was even more astounded. What could possibly be so serious that it would compel the minister to invoke the sacred magic agreement? Violating the sacred magic agreement would lead to punishment by the sacred powers. Individuals of lower ranks could even face immediate execution. And the agreement contained only one condition: not to disclose anything about today's events to anyone. No one hesitated. They left their presence on it, signed their names. Half an hour later, they watched a video. It featured Yihan explaining his divine-level forging skills and demonstrating the process on the spot. At that moment, He Shan took out 2 bracelets. These were the most ordinary magical bracelets on the market. One had not been enhanced. Another one has been enhanced. See for yourselves. Compared to the first ordinary bracelet, there's nothing special about it. Magical bracelet. Black iron grade, wearable at level 1. Magical enhancement. The second bracelet carries a hint of darkness. Wisdom glimmer bracelet. Bronze grade, wearable at level 1. Magic power increased by 50. The skill causes blindness. All attacks have a 1% chance to inflict a blindness effect on enemies. But with a magic boost of 50, it rivals some level 10 gear. Not to mention the 1% chance of causing blindness. This could definitely be considered a decent mid-tier piece of equipment. Everyone who took a look at the 2 bracelets was stunned. After witnessing the equipment enhanced by Yihan firsthand, they could clearly feel how terrifying this talent was. This is the equipment enhanced by that classmate Lin. An executive was completely stunned. An item was enhanced once. It was just like upgrading to a higher level piece of equipment. That's right, through the Principal Monk's connections, it was revealed. Student Lin has already enhanced 3 pieces of equipment. Each one has seen a significant improvement. This means that, as long as there are enough materials, he could craft gear for an entire army. And the most crucial part is, he's the real level 1 blacksmith. What if he reaches level 10, level 20, or even level 60? What will his enhancement effects look like then? I believe everyone here understands Yihan's value. Minister He, it's your call. How should this situation be handled? Should we send Yi directly to the military department? He Shan shook his head. It's still unclear who Ye's superior is. Moreover, he still needs time to grow. It would be best to have him pursue advanced studies at the university. We could start by providing some equipment for the top-ranking officials of the nation, to offer them certain resources. Considering the state of the country, everyone else agrees it makes sense. This promising talent might be a key hope for humanity to overcome the beasts. Next, I'll make arrangements to have Saint Magic University enroll student Yi. A deputy minister paused for a moment. It seems Saint Magic University doesn't admit students in life professions. That old eccentric isn't the easiest person to deal with. Rules are meant to be changed. I will personally explain the situation and then report it to the state. The Ministry of Education is offering him such an excellent candidate. How could he possibly refuse? If he doesn't want them, plenty of others will. The others exchanged puzzled looks, eventually agreed with a nod. From their perspective, this student named Yi Han might end up changing the entire building. A few hours later, the Ministry of Education disabled its jamming device. The president's office at St. Magic University received a phone call. Why should I take in a student from a life vocation, and even assign someone to help him level up? Give him the resurrection stone first. Why doesn't he just go and take it? The government will subsidize me with another $1. Alright, then it's fine. Who is this person? Not even a king has more authority than him. Alright, got it. The president of St. Magic University, Shi Yunmin, hung up the phone. With a sharp gaze, he stared out the window. Interesting, no information is allowed to be disclosed. Even the St. Magic protocol I created was activated. Have all relevant personnel sign off. All this just for one student. Even in critical moments, such strategic resources are prioritized. This person is no ordinary individual. Then let me find out just how significant you really are. At that moment, I had no idea. That's simply showing a bit of my ability. Would alarm half of the nation's top leadership. After demonstrating my abilities, even the principal wasn't able to learn the full details. It was only known that Yi Han had been admitted to Shengbui University in Tianhai City. He shared the news with Su Qilan. Yi Han won't need to come to school tomorrow. He will be picked up and taken to Tianhai City tomorrow. The next day at Linjiang No. 1 High School, the top performer in the competition was determined. It turned out to be Su Hui, who had previously faced off against Yi Han. In the classroom, Su Hui was carefully reviewing the introductions of these universities. This is one of the options provided by the school. As the top student of Linjiang First High School, he has the right to choose his school. But none of these choices appeal to him. The best choice in his mind is a top-tier university in the country. St. Magic University is among them. Su Hui let out a cold laugh. Yi Han is already a thing of the past. Only at an advanced university. Could he possibly find a true rival? Suddenly, Su Hui glanced toward the spot where Yi Han usually sat. Where is Yi Han? Someone noticed Su Hui's gaze. They followed her line of sight. Only then did they realize Yi Han wasn't here today. Where did Yi Han go? Someone asked. The others started discussing it again. I think he's too afraid to come back. After all, he used to be the genius of Linjiang First High School. Only awakened as a life profession. Too embarrassed to attend class. Don't say it like that. I believe that even if Yi Han is just a blacksmith, he can still shine and do great things. But I'm in a combat profession. In the future, I might ask him to craft equipment for me. That depends on whether he's qualified to make gear for me. My goal is the Tianhai Mage University. My future achievements are sure to be above level 40. Advancing in life and career sure is challenging. Meanwhile, someone else asked Su Hui. Su, which university are you planning to attend? Su's goal must be St. Magic University. Such a prestigious institution. With his abilities, it's completely achievable. Su Hui shook his head. His goal is indeed St. Magic University. But his skills are still a bit lacking. St. Magic University. It is truly a gathering place for exceptional talents. During the class discussion, Su Qilan knocked on the classroom door, gesturing for everyone to quiet down. The class meeting was about to begin. He had a smile on his face. This year, the class he was leading had Su Hui, who held the top rank in the entire school, and several other students with commendable grades. It's estimated that campus recruitment will also be secure. What makes him happiest is mentoring a student like Yi Han. Even the Department of Education has taken notice. The principal has already agreed to promote him to the director's position next semester. In that role, the Department of Education will also award him the title of Outstanding Teacher, and reward him with a piece of gold-tier equipment, even though he already owns one. That piece of equipment was also upgraded with Yi Han's help. Starting from today onward, it seems we might only see him on TV in the future. Took a moment to gather her thoughts. Su Qilan stepped onto the stage. Dear students, the school's decision is now in the past. The school's recommendations have already been distributed to you. You are free to make your own choice. Those preparing for the school exams should also stay alert. Some universities conduct their own entrance exams. The school needs to provide an introductory registration process. By the way, you can come here to sign up. Before that, I have some great news to share. Our school has received a guaranteed spot at St. Magic University. This year, one student will be admitted to St. Magic University. After hearing the last sentence, the entire class was thrilled. St. Magic University, one of the top 3 universities in Daxia. Linjiang High School is just a small-town high school, yet it managed to secure an admission. And it was even a guaranteed spot. At that moment, everyone's attention turned to Su Hui. After all, he was the top student at Linjiang High School. If there was only one guaranteed spot available, it would definitely go to him. Congratulations, Su Hui. Su Hui, don't forget about us, your old classmates, in the future. Su Hui stood up excitedly as well. Previously, he had been wondering how he managed to get into St. Magic University. He never expected the school to actually have guaranteed admission slots. That was unheard of before. Could it be that his talent caught the attention of St. Magic University? Maybe he had been overestimating the people at St. Magic University, thinking they were exceptionally extraordinary. But now it seems they're probably not much different from him, thanks to Professor Su. Su Hui expressed gratitude toward Su Qilan. What are you thanking me for? Su Qilan looked completely puzzled. Su Hui was taken aback. Wasn't I recommended for direct admission? It's perfectly normal to thank the teacher. Su Qilan didn't think too much about it, then made an announcement. Let's cheer for Yi Han. Even though he is no longer here. However, he is the first person in our school in the past decade to gain admission into St. Magic University, and also the first to be directly accepted without an exam. In that instant, everyone was completely stunned. Su Qilan looked at her classmates, who were frozen in shock, utterly confused by their reaction. Teacher, are you sure you're talking about Yi Han? Someone expressed disbelief. That's right, Yi Han was officially admitted without an exam yesterday. I hope all of you will look up to him as a role model. Follow his example. Su Qilan remarked. But isn't Yi Han in a non-combat profession? Some people were still puzzled. Su Qilan also expressed her admiration. Yes, Yi Han is in a non-combat profession. However, non-combat professions have their own value. For those among you who have awakened to non-combat professions, don't feel discouraged. Even non-combat professions can be impactful if utilized properly. It won't be any worse than combat professions. There's no way there's any shady dealings. Suddenly, Su Hui shouted loudly. He couldn't accept this outcome. How could Yi Han possibly be guaranteed admission? There must be some kind of unfair play involved. I am the top student in the entire school. Even I am not qualified for guaranteed admission. Why should I not demand an explanation from the school? Su Hui became emotional. Su Qilan furrowed her brows. This isn't a spot granted by the school. It's a spot that Yi Han earned on his own. It came directly from a document issued by the Provincial Education Department. If there are any doubts, you can take it up with the Provincial Education Department. When Su Hui heard it was a directive straight from the Provincial Education Department, she froze on the spot. He's just someone from a small town. He might have some recognition in Linjiang City, but across the entire Jiangnan province, he doesn't even come close to being noteworthy. Su Hui clenched her fists tightly. Yi Han, I will definitely come to find you. After returning home, Su Hui trained relentlessly, pouring all her frustration onto everything in her home, including the wooden training dummy she bought for practicing spells. Yi Han, I have no idea what kind of background you have, but I'll make sure you know. In this world, strength is what truly matters. Su Hui has also come to realize Yi Han is nothing more than someone in a non-combat profession. How could he possibly compare to me? It's simply because of his parents that he even got a guaranteed admission. Someone like him is bound to be surpassed by me sooner or later. The door to the training room suddenly swung open. Su Hui turned around to look. She was surprised and said, "Why are you back?" The person who came in was her father, Su Jianyong. Su Jianyong rarely came back home. As the director of the city's education bureau, Su Jianyong frequently attended social events. He hardly ever returned to the house. And even when he did, he was usually drunk. Most of the time, he would collapse onto the couch as soon as he got home, suddenly coming back and looking for him again. This left Su Hui feeling a bit puzzled. Su Jianyong had a wide smile on his face. He suddenly showed interest in how his son had been doing on his exams these past few days. Su Hui was completely speechless. His own son's answers. As a father who works at the Education Bureau, he didn't even know what kind of exams his son was taking. Su Hui thought to himself. He probably doesn't even know what awakened profession his son has. But after all, he was showing concern for him. Su Hui casually responded. Barely managed to take first place in the entire school. Top of the entire school. Just barely. Su Jianyong was surprised. He really hadn't paid much attention to his own son. However, he still knew that his son had awakened a special profession, thinking that no matter what, his son wouldn't score too poorly. Plus, being someone who works for the education department, it's easy to help his son get into a school. His son even scored first place in the entire school. He might even be able to recommend the top universities he knows, like St. Magic Academy. Thinking about St. Magic Academy, he suddenly remembered the real reason for coming to see his son today. No wonder he's my son, effortlessly achieving first place in the school. But that doesn't seem right. I remember your school recently had a prodigy. Wasn't it said that this person was the strongest in our city? Su Jianyong seemed a little puzzled. The genius Su Hui was even more confused. He's already ranked first in the entire school. Who could possibly be more of a genius than him? Could it be that the rumors are actually about himself? Su Jianyong asked. Do you know a student named Yihan? Upon hearing it was Yihan, Su Hui frowned. Su Hui furrowed her brows. Yihan is the genius you mentioned. Su Hui let out a cold snort. Su Jianrong responded as if it was only natural. Exactly, he was specially selected by the Provincial Education Department, directly recommended to enroll at the St. Magic Academy. If he weren't a genius, how could he receive such a recommendation? Son, you better seize this opportunity. If you know him, build a good relationship with him right now. You might be able to get his help in the future. Su Hui scoffed. He's just in a life-related profession. And he's a blacksmith. Have you ever heard of a prodigy awakening to a life-related profession? A blacksmith, really? Su Jianyong was stunned. Otherwise, how could he get into the St. Magic Academy? It seems like there might be some backstage manipulation involved. I will rely on my own abilities to enter the Sacred Magic Academy with dignity and honor. Su Hui still doesn't believe Yihan is that talented. In his opinion, a blacksmith is just a blacksmith, and simply cannot be compared to combat professions. However, Su Jianyong from the Education Bureau understands even better that ever since the game world merged with reality, admissions for all awakened individuals have become extremely strict. Even if he personally helped his son get into a good college, it would still be difficult to catch the attention of the Provincial Education Department and secure a special spot for Yihan to enter the university. This Yihan is definitely not ordinary, let alone the fact that it's a university like St. Magic Academy, which never admits life-oriented professions. Even if Yihan isn't a genius, achieving this is remarkable, and the people backing him must be even more extraordinary. Su Jianyong looked at his son. There seems to be some resentment towards that student named Yihan. Quickly said to his son, you better not think about competing with Yihan over anything. If you know him, try to get along with him as much as possible. If you don't know him, you can also try to get to know him. Make an effort to build more friendships. Su Hui nodded casually. Su Jianyong patted Su Hui gently. I suddenly remembered he got the highest score in the whole school. So, I happily said, my son got the top score in the entire school. This calls for a little celebration. Let's have a good drink together today. Su Hui, feeling exasperated, thought to herself, I bet it's just you wanting to drink. How could that be? No way. Su Jianyong gave an awkward smile. How about this? I'll buy you a set of top-tier golden gear. Didn't you tell me before that you were missing equipment? Perfect timing. You can take it with you when you go leveling up in a few days. Only then did Su Hui nod in agreement. Su Jianying was whistling. Taking his time as he strolled into the kitchen, he began preparing the food. Su Hui clenched her fist tightly. Genius Yihan. I will expose your true nature to the world. At the same time, officials from the Provincial Department of Education also arrived in Linjiang City. Originally, their first stop was supposed to be Yihan's house. However, they heard some news. Yihan even crafted equipment for 2 individuals. Since Yihan's confidentiality level is classified as SSS, starting from yesterday, all matters related to Yihan must now be elevated to this confidentiality level. Not to mention the 2 pieces of equipment Yi-han created. If such information were to be discovered by those with ulterior motives, take it and have a look. You'll realize just how extraordinary Yi-han's talent is. So the first thing they did upon arriving was to collect the equipment. However, when they were at Su Qilan's house, they noticed the paralysis ring in Su Qilan's hand, and were momentarily stunned. The agents from the Bureau of Confidential Affairs exchanged glances, and immediately sensed something unusual. Su Qilan couldn't understand what was wrong with this attribute. As someone from the Provincial Confidentiality Bureau, they didn't say much. They simply spoke calmly to Su Qilan. Sign this agreement first. Starting from today, you are not allowed to disclose anything about this ring, or anything related to Yi-han. The government will compensate you. By the way, how well do you know Yi-han? The next day, while at home, Yi-han received a message instructing him to go to the dungeon entrance in Linjiang City tomorrow. Yi-han didn't think too much about it, because the person who sent the message was the former principal of Linjiang First High School. At the entrance of the dungeon, he curiously observed the people entering and leaving the dungeon, wondering if the principal asked him to come today to personally lead him through the dungeon. The dungeons in Linjiang City are designed for players below level 30. As a smaller city, it naturally doesn't have particularly challenging dungeons. In fact, most cities have dungeons that cater to players under level 30, because level 30 is considered a significant milestone. At level 30, players can advance their professions, and the dungeons are structured around this progression, splitting into 2 distinct categories. One type is exclusively for players below level 30. One is a dungeon for levels 30 to 60. As long as you're within this level range, you cannot access other dungeons. This, in turn, creates another type of gameplay. Players stuck at level 29 can help level 1 players level up. Based on Yi-han's earlier assessment, the principal should be above level 25. Could it be that he is one of those stuck at level 29? What Yi-han didn't expect was, the person who came wasn't the principal. Instead, it was someone he was very familiar with, Mr. Su. Mr. Su. How could it be that he would meet Mr. Su here? Yi-han felt a bit puzzled. However, Su Qilan seemed unusually excited. Looking at the dungeon entrance, there was a trace of longing in his eyes. Ever since becoming a teacher, for countless years, he had not set foot in the dungeon entrance again. Not just because teaching left him no time. It's also because they've reached a bottleneck. They want to level up by entering the dungeon. It's not as simple as just going in and killing monsters. Although the dungeon is considered a conquered area, there are plenty of guides available. But the problem is, could people actually die in there? This isn't some fictional movie world. Death might seem insignificant, but it feels different when it happens to you. The moment you realize going in might mean death, fear naturally sets in. This is how everyone thinks about it. Unless they are absolutely confident, nobody would willingly seek death. As for why he is here now, it's clear he has a good chance of surviving. I came here to help you level up. Su Qilan smiled warmly. Actually, Mr. Su is quite attractive too. However, within the school environment, to maintain an authoritative presence, she has always been dressed in professional attire. At this moment, Yi-han noticed something different about Ms. Su. Compared to her usual appearance, Ms. Su's outfit seemed much more dynamic. Upon closer observation, he realized Ms. Su was wearing professional gear instead of her regular clothing. Teacher, you must have quite a solid financial background. This set must have cost quite a bit. Yi-han was astonished. The ring that Mr. Su showed earlier, he assumed that Mr. Su's family probably didn't have much money. After all, the ring was just an ordinary silver grade. If he hadn't helped him enhance it, it probably wouldn't even reach gold grade. But now Mr. Su was wearing a full set of gear, which must be worth a fortune. Thanks to you. The message above. Su Qilan glanced at her student with a sigh of emotion. That day, someone from the Bureau of Confidentiality approached him. Initially, they just handed him a piece of equipment. It was meant to be a simple reward. But after seeing the effects of the paralyzing ring, their expressions suddenly shifted. They then said they would compensate him with more equipment, and asked about his relationship with Yi-han. It seemed like they wanted him to help Yi-han level up. So, they issued him a set of gear. This is the very set he's wearing right now. Just seeing the gear's level alone was enough to leave him stunned. A full set of gold tier gear in a level 10 dungeon is already considered top tier equipment. That's also why he feels confident in leading Yi Han to level up. It's truly amazing. Yi Han had actually already guessed it. Some people might team up to level up together, but if it's with someone unfamiliar, it can get unbearably dull. Fortunately, this time it's the familiar teacher Su. Traveling together makes leveling up more enjoyable with conversations along the way. 5 hours later, Teacher Su pulled out the Tang horizontal blade from the Ironback Wolf. The blade carried the scent of fresh blood. A faint glow emerged from the Ironback Wolf's body. Both Yi Han and Teacher Su were illuminated. All the markers for experience points bonuses lit up. Mr. Su gazed at himself. The monster that had already been killed could not help but show a slight sign of nausea, but it quickly settled down. Yi Han held his mouth and nose. The area is scattered with the corpses of wolves. The replica doesn't seem to match the way it was described in text. Simply entering dungeons, defeating monsters, and leveling up. That seems appealing. This instance is called the Wolfpack instance. After entering the level 10 instance, there is a forest nearby, surrounded by some towering mountains. At first glance, it's almost impossible to tell whether this is a real world, if not for the fact that in the sky, there's a vortex glowing with a dark light, spinning continuously. He would have thought this is a forest within the original world. The elimination of the iron-backed wolf. It's not just about stepping forward, landing one blow, and showing some numbers. That alone doesn't mean it's a game invasion. Reality feels more like an entirely different world. A youthful journey within this world. Some strange creatures appeared after the dungeon was unlocked. But they are made of flesh and blood. They can dodge and endure hits. Even after taking a fatal strike, they won't die instantly. There was still a trace of resistance in between. After death, piles of corpses lay before their eyes, along with the squirming of flesh and the stench in the air, highlighting the extraordinary nature of this world. The wolf packs would even coordinate attacks. Mr. Su had to occasionally take care of Yi Han, who had no combat abilities whatsoever, using the skills from his equipment to protect himself. If not for his overwhelming strength at level 15, combined with his fully golden grade gear, perhaps even an average level 10 warrior would find it incredibly difficult to clear this. However, the golden grade Tang Hengdao in Mr. Su's hands already has a notch on its blade. It's surprising how fragile this golden grade weapon turned out to be. Mr. Su couldn't help feeling a bit helpless about it. To be fair, he understands well enough. That equipment is ultimately consumable. Otherwise, frontline supplies wouldn't be in such high demand. Still, considering it lasted through the entire level 10 dungeon, and only got one notch, that's already quite impressive. Mr. Su, back at school you seemed so quiet. I thought you might be in a role similar to a mage or a healer. But I never expected you to be a warrior. Su Qilan gave a faint smile, wiping the blood off her blade. In that moment, she truly had the demeanor of a heroine. A rare class. Blade finisher. My ability is to boost the damage of my blade and enhance reaction speed. But this profession requires not just good equipment, it also demands physical training. My family kept saying that as a girl I shouldn't be going to the battlefield. So after reaching level 15, I stopped progressing. Yi Han was startled. His teacher turned out to have a rare profession. He looked at his own level. Level 3, 5 hours in. Su Qilan led him along. Cleared through this level 10 dungeon with ease. Enjoying an additional boost for myself. In exchange, gained 2 levels. As expected, leveling up isn't as simple as I imagined. If he really were just a regular blacksmith profession, trying to enlist someone fully equipped with gold tier gear, being a rare level 15 profession, helping myself level up. Moreover, still taking the risk, even if it might come at the cost of life-threatening danger. Without at least 100 or 200,000, no one would ever agree. Thank you, Mr. Su. Yi Han was deeply grateful. But Su Qilan shook her head instead. It's not you who should thank me, but rather, I should be the one thanking you. If it weren't for you, this set of golden equipment likely wouldn't have ended up in my hands. I'll use a set of golden gear to help you reach level 10. Anyone would agree to that. That's it for today. We'll continue at the same time tomorrow. It seems like there's been something going on these past few days. They told me to help you reach level 10. Only then will you be allowed to attend Saint Magic University. That way, you'll have more security. Yi Han nodded in agreement. Over the course of the next week, Yi Han has spent most of his time within the dungeons. 7 days later, in the afternoon. How much more experience is needed to reach level 10? Yi Han looked at his level and attribute panel. He had already reached level 9. But the panel seemed almost the same as before. The only noticeable changes were in the attributes. It seemed like only upon reaching level 10 would there be a true transformation. They say that after level 10, everyone can learn the first skill. Combat professions naturally focus on combat skills. It's just uncertain what kind of abilities a blacksmith profession will awaken. Yi Han, level 9. 562/1000 blacksmith. Health 900, attack power 45, attack speed. Movement speed. Energy 900, skill, enhanced forging. Enhancement has a chance to increase an equipment's upgrade level by 1. Alternatively, there is a chance to grant additional attributes. Forging requires a forging manual and materials. There is a chance to successfully forge a piece of equipment. Alternatively, consuming materials may provide attributes. Special attributes. Divine level forging with extraordinary results. All the equipment you enhance and forge will definitely succeed, and is guaranteed to grant extra attributes and additional entries. There is a chance to upgrade the equipment's level. There is a chance to acquire special attributes and unique perks. Almost there, tomorrow might be the day to reach level 10. Yi Han felt completely at ease. Tomorrow, we'll find out what happens at level 10. The day's battles have come to an end. Yi Han and teacher Su clicked to exit. The dungeon progressed to the settlement phase. Congratulations to Yi Han and Su Qilan for completing the Wolfpack dungeon. Overall evaluation, grade D. Not the first clear of the dungeon. No rewards of any kind. It seems something is hidden among the pack of wolves. After a flash of light, the figures of the two appeared in the dungeon hall. The dungeon hall is an incredibly majestic structure. Above, there is a series of swirling vortexes. Once a dungeon is selected, you will be pulled into the corresponding vortex above. The number of people in the hall is neither too many nor too few. After all, this is just the dungeon of the small city of Linjiang. There aren't many, and even fewer are willing to risk their lives to level up. If it weren't for the fact that this is during the high school graduation period, most people are just transitioning and about to enter school. There probably wouldn't be many people coming to level up at all. Unfortunately, Yi Han and teacher Su happened to run into someone they knew as soon as they stepped out. Boss, yesterday my armor sold for over 100,000. I still consider it a loss. A person who looks just like a warrior. Negotiating with a young man. The young man is the same Su Hui who previously competed with Yi Han. Su Hui looked impatient. Isn't all this talk just a way to ask for more money? The armor you're wearing is essentially a consumable. Don't think I can't see through it. You didn't even bring out the equipment you usually use. That piece of armor is worth at most 10,000. You could buy a silver grade one for that price. It's not that rare. That's not how it should be said. The soldier immediately got anxious. He started to argue. But Su Hui wasn't really paying attention. He suddenly felt a wave of something. Looking in the direction of the gaze, he was surprised to see Yi Han and Ms. Su together. Yi Han and Ms. Su. Su Hui exclaimed in surprise. Ms. Su also noticed it was one of her students. She sheathed her sword and walked over with a smile. Oh, Su, you're here leveling up too. Su Hui nodded in agreement. Teacher, you're here as well. I'm helping Yi Han level up. He's the only one in our class who got a direct admission to the Holy Magic Academy. Of course, he deserves more resources. But Su Hui doubted it. After all, the teacher was helping a student level up. This is something explicitly prohibited by the Department of Education. Mr. Su surprisingly went against the rules. What made him even more envious was, why wasn't Mr. Su mentoring him instead? He was clearly the top student in the entire school. It was all because of Yi Han's strong connections. Even Mr. Su felt the need to curry favor with him. He refused to believe what Mr. Su claimed. Because Yi Han was the first to secure a guaranteed admission, Mr. Su didn't bother to explain further. Due to signing a confidentiality agreement, he can't share too much information. Alright, goodbye, Su. Yi Han, come again tomorrow. You might reach level 10 by tomorrow. What? Yi Han is about to reach level 10? Su Hui was startled, considering he spent 100,000 to have this level 15 warrior by his side, helping him level up. It took an entire week. It was only then I reached level 4. Mainly because the person next to me was overly cautious. At first, we chose a level 5 dungeon. In fact, this is the most typical scenario. Taking along someone at level 1. A level 5 dungeon is more than enough. Besides, the warrior had a different method of helping Su Hui level up. Most of the time, it was a slow process of chipping away at health. After all, he wasn't part of a rare class. The gear he was wearing was all priced according to what Su Hui provided. He couldn't bear to use his own equipment. It often took him an entire day to clear a single dungeon, and he might need to rest the following day. This is why it took him 7 days to reach level 4. Yi Han. What gave him the right to have teacher Su help him level up? And why was he leveling up so quickly? Why did Su Hui clench her fist, staring intently at Yi Han? Yi Han gave a slight nod to Su Hui as a gesture. He and Su Hui were not particularly acquainted. Su Hui had always assumed she was his rival. It was just that the time-traveling Yi Han had a clearer understanding of what he truly wanted. He felt curious about the new world, and that was why he worked so hard to learn. The people around him were all strangers to him, including Su Hui. Seeing Yi Han's indifferent expression, Su Hui became even angrier. What was going on? She had already regarded Yi Han as her primary competitor. Yet Yi Han didn't even spare her a glance. After the two left, the nearby soldiers were still haggling. Su Hui then took out her phone and directly dialed a number. "Hello there. I want to report something." "Man, reporting something like this isn't really necessary. I just think the price could go up a bit more." The soldier was surprised when he heard about the report. At first, he was startled. But then he realized he hadn't broken any laws. Boosting accounts for leveling up is pretty common. The price is just a bit inflated, that's all. But that's just how the market is right now. I want to report this. Mr. Liu took the students to level up. The names are Han Yi and Qilan Su. After Hui Su finished reporting, she stared coldly in the direction where Han Yi left. If this gets discovered by higher authorities, the matter of the teacher taking Han Yi to level up could be investigated. It's very likely Han Yi's guaranteed admission to Sacred Magic University would be revoked, and perhaps I could take his place. A jealous smile appeared on Su Hui's face, but her smile quickly faded, because she saw an instant reply on the phone. "Hello, regarding your report about Yi Han and the issue with Su Qilan, the teacher leading students to level up has indeed been confirmed. It is factual. This upgrade is based on a document issued by the Ministry of Education and is considered a lawful and compliant action. Thank you for your report. We hope you take a moment to rate our work. A 5-star rating is considered excellent." Su Hui was so angry she almost smashed her phone. "I rate you star 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 star." This made Su Hui even more jealous. The document was issued directly by the Ministry of Education. "Yi Han, you're truly unforgivable." Yi Han had no idea about Su Hui's situation. Just as he always remained curious about the world, he didn't care about anyone else. Su Hui was just an ordinary classmate to him. After returning home, Yi Han noticed an extra pair of shoes at the doorstep. He smiled softly. He realized someone was home. Pushing the door open, he saw a lovely figure busy in the kitchen. It was none other than his sister, Yi Yanan. "You're back, brother. I thought you wouldn't come back, so I made a bowl of noodles. How about I add a little more for you?" Looking at the familiar figure, Yi Han also felt a sense of relief. Even when being escorted to level up inside the dungeon, Yi Han didn't dare to relax for even a moment, because in the dungeon lobby, he could actually see letters being broadcasted. A certain individual, a certain profession, was confirmed dead in the instance. An entire week had passed. As a beginner, it was his first time entering the instance, and he kept staring continuously at the deaths of the creatures. This naturally made him feel a bit nervous, but it was thrilling enough. The appearance of his sister perfectly broke the tension. Yi Han's family was relatively harmonious, except that his parents worked out of town and rarely came home. "Only my sister is around the same age as me. She stays on campus at the neighboring school." He suddenly remembered that his sister seemed to have awakened as well. "Oh right, sis. What profession did you awaken to?" His sister turned her head with a smile. "Classmate Yi, you finally asked." "I awakened to a rare combat profession, the weapon master." Yi Han was stunned. Master of weapons. This is a profession that a little girl is supposed to awaken to. Yi Han suddenly remembered that Teacher Su seemed quite gentle, but she had awakened to the unique profession of an ancient blade master. He wondered which path his younger sister would take. Logically, his younger sister awakening to a rare profession should have made her happy. But he thought about an experience he had in a dungeon, and suddenly, he couldn't bring himself to smile anymore. If one is not a divine-level blacksmith, and is merely an ordinary blacksmith, he might not be able to protect his sister. Perhaps his sister's strength could bring improvements to the family. However, his talent has already caught the attention of the nation. He could completely rely on the support of the country. His sister's extraordinary talent could mean she might end up on the battlefield. The battlefield is something Yi Han has never experienced, but he can imagine it being even more terrifying than dungeons. After all, dungeons have been thoroughly studied. But on the battlefield, blades and swords show no mercy, especially in a world filled with mysterious powers. How about me, the weapon master? My description states, all of my weapons can deal additional damage. And the more weapons I equip, the stronger I become. Plus, I can control even more weapons. All weapon proficiency is doubled. Maybe I can get accepted into the legendary Holy Demon University. Yi Han looked full of anticipation. He could already picture himself on the battlefield, slaying enemies left and right. Yi Han listened as his sister introduced her profession. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. Master of weapons. The more weapons equipped, the stronger one becomes. He might not be able to stop his sister from going to the battlefield, but if he could create more weapons himself, equip him with a dozen or so legendary artifacts, wouldn't that give him the ability to protect himself? Sis, can you guess what profession your brother has awakened? Yi Han suddenly started laughing. At the same time, inside the Provincial Department of Education, He Shanshuan was once again holding a meeting with a group of officials. He Shanshuan solemnly activated the signal blocking device. The others sat upright and attentive, understanding that something significant was happening again. Today's topic is still about Student Yi. The higher-ups believe that the protective measures for Student Yi need further improvement. What else is there to improve? This is already the highest level of protection. Some people are still confused. It's important to understand that around Student Yi right now, there are more than 10 combat professionals above level 30. In Linjiang City, the number of people who could pose a threat to him is extremely small. Once he arrives in Tianhai City, however, they need to assign someone above level 60 to protect him. If it weren't for the concern of disturbing Student Yi, they would probably have arranged for close protection directly. The skilled warriors are all stationed on the front lines. There aren't enough people available to spare for his protection. Level 30 and level 60 are significant milestones. Combat professions above level 30 often don't choose to stay in small towns, because they need to level up. They have to venture into areas with higher level dungeons. For example, in Tianhai City, there's an ocean-themed instance here, whereas in Linjiang City, the instances there are capped at level 30 at most. So only level 30 combat professions were assigned to secretly protect Yi Han. This decision was made considering that if higher-level individuals were assigned, it might attract unwanted attention. Otherwise, people at level 60 would have been sent long ago. Hashan Sun shook his head slightly. Take a look at this document. He had several copies of the document distributed. It was written on the document: completion of the first clear for the Witchcraft Dungeon in Nanyun Province, levels 30 to 60. The first clear rewards have already been delivered to the soldiers of the Great Xia Army. Wasn't this dungeon previously unbeaten? I recall there were disputes with the Yan'an region. Whoever conquers this dungeon will gain ownership of the area. Additionally, the dungeon produces a rare type of potion, capable of neutralizing many toxins. Dungeons within levels 30 to 60 have a protection mechanism in place. Players above level 60 are no longer allowed to enter, while those below level 60 are unable to defeat it. So this is the dungeon that hasn't been conquered yet. Clearing the dungeon for the first time comes with special rewards. Additionally, it grants ownership of the dungeon. This is also the area where major nations compete against each other. The Grand Xia is able to claim ownership of the dungeon. This signifies that a series of outputs within it will belong to the greater cause. All of it will ultimately contribute to the larger picture. This is undoubtedly a major achievement of great significance. The few individuals from the Education Bureau exchanged puzzled looks. You've done a great job. But what does this have to do with Yi Han? Hushan Sun gave a mysterious smile. Previously, student Yi Han had upgraded 3 pieces of equipment. Among them, there are 2 pieces we haven't seen before. Due to confidentiality agreements, I won't be introducing the other one. One of them is called the Paralysis Ring. It can be equipped at level 10 and is of gold quality. Here is its information. Soon, everyone saw the effects of the Paralysis Ring. The rest isn't anything special, although the stats are quite overwhelming. But considering it was produced by Yi Han, it seems reasonable enough. However, that last mandatory attribute really stands out. Completely stunned in an instant. Unlike Mr. Su's interpretation of mandatory reading, he felt his level was incredibly low. Wearing the mandatory reading ring, although it could conquer a good number of low-level dungeons, it was still just average. But he was unaware of the horror of percentage-based health reduction. The education department understood even better how outrageous this was. He Shanshuan went on to introduce the mandatory reading ring. Mandatory reading could reduce health by a percentage, even though each attack only has a 2% chance to trigger. Someone among us was equipped with special gear. Combined with the uniqueness of their profession, their attack speed reached 100 slashes per second. They pushed the ring's ability to its absolute limit, maximizing its potential to the fullest, and used the probability to wear down and ultimately kill the monster. The monster in the Voodoo Dungeon had an ability to heal itself through poison effects, and the correct way to clear the dungeon, it should involve eliminating all the surrounding poisonous goo insects. This method has already been verified by someone. Although this approach is extremely challenging, it is still achievable. But no one could have predicted that this method would actually be used now to forcibly eliminate that monstrous creature. The military has already responded, instructing us to ensure the safety of student Yi at all costs. As a result, the level of security has been heightened once again. They examined 3 pieces of enhanced equipment. It was believed that Ye's enhancements involved an element of randomness. There might be a way to create some very unique equipment, and this type of equipment was exactly what they needed. From this moment on, Yi came under the protection of the military. The intelligence agency and our education bureau also provided protection. Additionally, the military wanted to test the upper limits of Ye's enhancement abilities, so they specifically prepared a selection of equipment. Let student Yi enhance their skills further. As he spoke, Hushan searched for the ring. A row of equipment was laid out on the table, ranging from gold tier to legendary tier items, especially that legendary piece of equipment. It was a piece of armor. When it was brought out, even people from the Ministry of Education stood up, staring at the legendary equipment, their eyes filled with longing one by one. Equipment is categorized into black iron, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and diamond, obsidian, king, legendary, and artifact. Apart from artifacts, legendary equipment is already the highest level. The artifact tier of equipment seems to have an unclear origin. Either way, even at their level, they have never heard of it. It appears that even the nation doesn't have legendary equipment. It's essentially the highest level equipment the entire nation can offer. The best grade gear that can be brought out. They're even considering letting him try out legendary equipment. What if it gets ruined during the process? Someone asked about it. It's just a piece of legendary gear. If it gets destroyed, so be it. The Ring of Must-Read Enhancements by Yi Han has already given us a key advantage in achieving the first clear of the dungeon. The reward for being the first to clear that dungeon. Included in it is a piece of legendary equipment. Isn't that enough? Others were thrilled upon hearing this. One piece of gear led to the first dungeon clear, and they also obtained a piece of legendary equipment. This is simply unheard of, but they clearly underestimated it. If not for that attack speed reaching a combat value of 100 per second, his entire body is equipped to absorb damage like a tank. There's a whole team dedicated to supporting him. It's practically impossible to beat. But the key lies in this. Without Yi Han's must-have ring, nothing else would even work. No one knows how long it will take to clear that dungeon. At this point, everyone calmed down. As for the materials, I heard that when student Yi was enhancing those 3 pieces of equipment, he only used basic enhancement stones and regular materials. So we prepared a full set of enhancement materials, and let student Yi choose for himself. As for the extra ones, let's just leave them all to him. What class is it? Yi Han's younger sister, Yianan, asked curiously at home. She knew her older brother had always ranked first in the entire school, and figured the awakened class wouldn't be anything ordinary. The blacksmith Yi Han remarked casually. Upon hearing it was a blacksmith, Yianan froze for a moment. A blacksmith? What kind of profession is that? Yianan understood clearly. Blacksmiths can't even compare to combat professions. Seeing her brother still smiling so cheerfully, Yianan let out a sigh. Thankfully, she had awakened a special combat profession that might be able to protect her brother. It's okay, Yi Han. From now on, I've got your back. If you get bullied out there, I'll help you get even. To overturn the heavens and earth. Brother, I still need your protection. Yi Han no longer held back. Bro, I'm not just any ordinary blacksmith. So, Yi Han explained his abilities to his sister. He wanted his sister to understand that he would have the ability to protect her in the future, and that she didn't need to try so hard. Is this considered strong? What he didn't expect was, Yianan suddenly said, "Isn't this strong?" Yi Han was stunned. After all, once he revealed his abilities, he was immediately placed under national protection. But that was the government. They understand what this ability could bring to the Great Xia. But Yianan only knows a little about it. What's the point? Can it be used in combat? Yi Han almost coughed up blood in frustration. This was a heavy blow to him. It struck him at his most vulnerable spot. His god-level forging skills are incredible, but they are completely useless in combat. No way, Yi Han gritted his teeth and said. Yianan gently patted Yi Han's head. That's why, from now on, I've got your back. Stick with me. I guarantee you'll reach level 10. It seems like it's been 3 days since I last disciplined you. You're about to cause some real trouble. Yi Han immediately picked up Yianan. Even though Yianan is in a combat class, he had only just awakened his abilities. The level is still at 1. Meanwhile, I'm already at level 9. Yet the base stats are still higher than his. Come on, man. After finishing dealing with Yianan, Yi Han let out a sigh. Even though I'm already pretty overpowered, fighting is still something I find challenging. Maybe when I reach level 10, I might awaken something entirely different. Let's see if it's possible to fight. If it really doesn't work, just go ahead and fully enhance an entire set of gear. Who says lifestyle professions can't fight? As long as the gear's stats and mechanics are strong enough, even lifestyle professions can offset the skill advantages of combat professions. The next day, Yi Han arrived at the dungeon as usual. After another full day in the dungeon, when Yi Han stepped out of the dungeon, looking at my level, it has already reached level 10. Yi Han, level 10, 1000/1000, and advanced to Forging Master. Health points, 1000, attack power, 50, attack speed. Movement speed, 1000, skill, enhanced forging. Enhancement. There is a chance to increase the enhancement level of an equipment by 1. Or dismantling it might provide additional attributes. Forging requires a forging manual and materials. There is a chance to successfully forge an equipment into shape. Or consumption of materials might provide some attributes. Special attribute. Divine level forging, divine level forging. All equipment you enhance and forge is guaranteed to succeed, and will always provide additional attributes and extra affixes. Has a chance to increase the equipment's level, and a chance to obtain unique attributes and special affixes. The affixes do not change significantly. Only the level shows a label indicating advancement. This implies that Yi Han needs to advance to a higher level as a blacksmith. Each profession advancement is divided into several types. Blacksmith advancement follows the same pattern. This includes becoming an equipment blacksmith. Future specialization will focus on forging equipment. Or becoming a weapon blacksmith, specializing exclusively in forging weapons. In fact, as long as the blacksmith profession is awakened, whether it's equipment or weapons, both can be enhanced and forged. However, if a blacksmith advances in their craft, they can add additional attributes, such as weapons. Blacksmiths. If the equipment being forged or upgraded is a weapon, then it becomes possible to add extra attributes to the weapon. Conversely, if other equipment is forged or enhanced, it will be no different from the usual. And most importantly, blacksmiths also have access to something unique. This is the blueprint. Every time a blacksmith advances in rank, specifically at every level 10 milestone, they can receive a set of blueprints. which are used to forge equipment or weapons. The level of these blueprints is entirely random. They might get an iron tier blueprint, or they could end up with a legendary tier blueprint. This is why blacksmiths have another option, and that is to gamble for blueprints. Reaching a certain level allows you to gamble for a blueprint. Naturally, the blueprint's level typically corresponds with the blacksmith's level, increasing the odds. As for legendary blueprints, and the mythical blueprints that have never been seen, those are entirely non-existent. Perhaps it's also something Yi-Han has never heard of. Now that he's reached level 10, Yi-Han is extremely curious about what his first blueprint will turn out to be. Mr. Su, who was standing nearby, glanced at Yi-Han, was also very pleased. Reaching level 10 in just 10 days. Most young heirs from prominent families rely on their families to help them level up, and usually this is about the same pace. Yi-Han has nearly received the best possible training. Let's go meet the principal. Now that you've reached level 10, it's time for you to set off for the Holy Magic Academy. Additionally, after reaching level 10, advanced materials are required. This depends on whether the principal has arranged it for you. Yi-Han nodded in agreement. Advancement requires not only reaching the level of 10 but also studying the relevant advanced knowledge. This is the most crucial part. As for weapon forgers and equipment forgers, these two professions serve as the foundation. Yi-Han had heard of this before. Among forgers, there are also special magic rune forgers. That is where even weaponry can be enhanced with extra magical engravings. The advanced profession of a blacksmith. These are typically found only in major nations. Currently, those who possess such abilities are limited to the Grand Xia and a few other powerful nations. As for smaller nations, they often excel in only one specific profession and take a unique approach to it to acquire advanced knowledge in their field. If Yi-Han lived in a smaller nation, I'm afraid even the path of becoming a blacksmith is out of reach. Only in the Great Xia does a comprehensive lifestyle exist. The advanced knowledge of professions. Yi-Han was filled with anticipation. After arriving at the principal's office, Principal Shang had already been waiting for quite some time. Reaching level 10 happened so quickly. Yi, you've worked hard. Everything you need for your advancement has been prepared. Principal Shang brushed his fingers over the storage ring, pulled out a pile of materials and equipment, placed them on the table. Yi-Han was stunned. Previously, it was the storage equipment from the principal, or the pouch he carried on his waist. Why has it now turned into a ring? Although the game has merged with reality, only those who have awakened spatial-related professions. Others do not possess storage abilities, and only certain items have the capability to store things. A ring is more elegant and convenient compared to a pouch, not to mention its storage functionality. The price of a storage ring compared to a storage pouch is several dozen times higher. Most people simply cannot afford it. Even the headmaster previously only used a storage pouch, and now he somehow has the money to buy a ring. The headmaster glanced at Yi-Han and cleared his throat twice. This ring is all thanks to student Yi. It highlights the improvement in our school's educational standards. It's a special reward. And you have one too. Yi-Han was momentarily stunned. He also has one. The price of storage rings typically starts in the millions and increases with the expansion of space capacity. The principal was seen taking out another exquisite ring from the storage ring. He retrieved a finely crafted ring. Everything allocated to you from above is right here. The other materials are meant for your advancement. There's also some equipment specifically for you to use. Yi-Han was stunned. He picked up the ring and took a closer look. Inside, there was actually a space as large as a basketball court. Keep in mind, even a cabinet outside would cost millions. A space the size of a basketball court must be worth billions. The scale of this is truly astonishing. The nation's generosity is truly remarkable. Yi-Han also noticed that the entire space was completely empty. However, in the corner, there was a simple and unassuming stone. It carried no discernible aura or presence. It seemed like an ordinary pebble one might casually spot by the roadside. When Yi-Han took it out for a closer look, he was once again astonished. It read that the resurrection consumable anchor point had already been set for the user. The effect was unbound and would activate upon the carrier's death, reviving them at the designated anchor point. However, this would not work on individuals above the divine level. Originating from an unknown source, it once appeared as a massive, intact monolith. It marked the rise and fall of a dynasty. Yi Han never expected that the nation would possess such a powerful artifact, capable of instant resurrection, and even allowing for anchor point positioning, instead of reviving directly on the spot. But this is understandable. If the artifact were one that revived someone in their original location, basically, as long as someone is guarding the corpse, there was no chance of winning in the first place, reviving only to be killed again. This ends up being completely useless. And the location of the revival anchor point, Yi Han had no idea about it. It had already been activated. The anchor point had been locked in. Yi Han thought it must have been the government that set the coordinates for him. He believed that reviving would definitely place him in a completely secure area, unless the entire nation is completely destroyed. Of course, in that case, even reviving oneself would be pointless. Thinking about this, Yi Han hesitated no longer. He gripped the stone tightly and silently chanted to bind it. The user of the stone was then linked to himself. There was no sensation at all. If Yi Han hadn't seen the panel display, he might have thought the stone was useless, but it had already been used. Yi Han placed the resurrection stone into the storage ring. Then he turned his gaze to the materials and equipment in front of him. Initially, he intended to advance as quickly as possible. However, when he saw the equipment in front of him, he became curious about what else the nation had provided him. Yi Han directly picked up a hammer. It was obvious. This was equipment tailored by the nation to match his skills as a blacksmith, designed specifically for him. The forging hammer was of obsidian grade. Required level to equip, level 10. Enhancement plus 10 increases health by 1100. Attack boosted by 1100 with the Fireforge skill. Fire hammer and Fireforge. All forged and enhanced equipment. Raises success rate by 11%. Has a chance to add extra attributes. Reduces forging and enhancement material costs by 11% when attacking with the fire hammer. Boosts fire magic damage by 11% of maximum health. My hammer is only meant for smashing armor, whether it's on the forge or on someone's body. Even the usually calm and composed Yi Han couldn't help but let out a curse. The attributes of this equipment are simply too overpowered. As a blacksmith, Yi Han can probably tell that the original attributes of this item were likely not very high. The main factor is the extended enhancement effect. This hammer underwent a fundamental transformation, not to mention the increase in health points. It even directly connects to gain 11% attack power based on health points, and its magical attack power. Both physical and magical attack attributes are maxed out. Even with all of this, it still wasn't enough to make Yi Han lose his composure. The most important thing is, this weapon also gave Yi Han a new idea. Exactly, just like when playing online games in the past life. The most annoying thing is having both durability and damage output. The country provides itself with such weapons. It's obvious they didn't expect this, allowing him to deal damage. At most, it's meant to ensure survival, especially with the added health attributes. But since such weapons exist, does this mean it's possible to deal damage too? If I go looking for other gear that increases health, isn't this weapon even more overpowered? However, Yi Han also realized, this piece of gear is only of obsidian rank. Maybe in the future, the gear he wields would be far beyond just obsidian rank equipment. Above that, there are king rank and legendary rank items, and possibly even god tier equipment. Of course, this is likely because the Bo family gave him special treatment, mainly because the required level to equip it is only level 10, and he just happens to be level 10. Finding a weapon of obsidian level in this tier is already impressive. Coming across an obsidian level weapon is quite an achievement. This is already a great find. Yi Han turned his gaze to the other pieces of equipment. The other gear seemed noticeably less impressive in comparison. As expected, Yi Han picked them up one by one to inspect. From the helmet down to the boots, the entire set of equipment was all diamond level. After all, the gear's level cap was only up to level 10. At this point, diamond level was essentially the highest tier available. Obsidian tier items are incredibly rare and hard to come by. It's only after reaching level 30 that players generally start encountering items of gold tier or higher. And legendary equipment doesn't appear until level 60. However, these items usually have average attributes, but they all come with bonuses to health points. With a full set equipped, Yi Han's health points have surged to an astonishing additional 7,500, combined with his original 1,000 health points. His total health points are now close to reaching 10,000. Such attributes. People would believe it if you said he was a level 30 warrior. Even those wealthy kids, whose families own mines, would find it impressive to assemble at level 10 a full set of diamond gear, let alone having attributes perfectly tailored for the profession and specifically optimized to boost health points, completing the entire set of equipment. At least $1 billion. During the initial stage. To equip oneself with gear worth $1 billion. The country must have put considerable effort into this. Is this what it feels like to have the country's support? Even Yi Han wondered if it was too much and shook his head. Yi Han didn't dwell on it further. After all, the country provided it. He might as well use it as his own. What he will bring to Great Xia in the future will far exceed this. Afterward, he turned his attention to his advancement materials, the Book of the Forge Master, and other materials he had never seen before. Yi Han picked them up one by one. He looked at the career path the nation had prepared for him, and was once again astonished. Advanced knowledge of the Titan Forge Master. Forging expertise passed down by the Titan race. Studying it will grant the blessing of the Titans. The Forge Master's advancement. It's essentially about learning a specific path. Once you choose a path, it isn't set in stone and can be changed. Every 10 levels, you can pick a type of advanced knowledge to study. However, the advanced knowledge you acquire requires progression at each stage. In other words, if you choose the Titan advancement at level 10, and then pick a different advancement at level 20, it's very likely both advancements will only remain at their initial stage. However, the advanced knowledge granted by the state for Colossal Forge Masters indicates that they indeed possess the subsequent advanced knowledge. As expected, among the side professions related to advanced knowledge, it is clearly written that the state holds the advanced knowledge for Colossal Forge Masters reaching level 70. As for what comes after level 70, there is nothing available. After all, the strongest professional in the Great Xia Kingdom is currently only at level 70. Once I reach level 70, I'll probably have to search for advanced knowledge on my own. Of course, the state didn't just provide a single piece of advanced knowledge. For me, there are 3 more books on advanced knowledge placed on the desk. Yi Han picked them up one by one to examine. Advanced knowledge of dwarven blacksmithing. Forging expertise passed down from the dwarf race. Gain the blessing of the dwarves after learning. The dwarf race is essentially, arguably the most experienced blacksmiths. In fact, most blacksmiths advancing their skills generally choose the dwarves. At first glance, dwarves and titans seem incomparable. But in reality, Titan forging is mostly limited to specific choices, resulting in only a few possible effects. The dwarf race is different. They have forged an overwhelming number of weapons and equipment. Their forging expertise spans in all directions and includes various enhancements. As a result, their advanced knowledge reserves are extensive. Just judging by the thickness of the 2 books alone, Yi Han was able to discern it clearly, especially the books containing the dwarves' advanced knowledge. The subpage indicated that this advanced knowledge could reach level 99. In other words, the nation surprisingly possesses such knowledge. Advanced knowledge for level 99 dwarves. Before reaching level 100, there's absolutely no need to worry about it. However, Yi Han still wasn't too keen on choosing this one. Then he turned his attention to the other 2 books. Advanced forging knowledge of the Hell Demon Clan. Forging expertise passed down from the Demon Clan. Grants the blessing of the Hell Demon God upon learning. This is something he could learn. Nation. Even advanced forging knowledge of the Infernal Demon Clan was given to him. All for himself. This seems to be a bit against the rules. It wasn't until Yi Han saw the note on the additional page that he finally understood why the government would grant it to him. Advanced knowledge of the Hell Demon Clan. The nation is only at level 60. However, it specifically mentions the blessing of the Demon God. It is written above. For the most part, advanced knowledge of Hell Demon clans for other professions. After receiving blessings from the Demon God, there will be incredibly exaggerated boosts. If Yi Han chooses this option, it might grant him even more formidable powers. Taking this into consideration, the nation also provided support. It was originally just advanced knowledge. It does not mean transforming oneself into a demon clan, so there's nothing particularly unique about it. Combined with the terrifying boost, one might have the option to choose. As Yi Han was contemplating whether to align with the Hell Demon Clan or the Titan clan. He opened the fourth book on advanced knowledge. Advanced Forging Knowledge of the Withering Empire. Written by a blacksmith from the Withering Empire. Containing all the forging expertise accumulated. Upon learning it, one would receive the blacksmith's blessing. Every advanced knowledge book has inscriptions on it. These inscriptions are something you absorb after learning. They are only taken in once the learning process is complete. The inscriptions on those books shine brightly. This includes the advanced knowledge of the dwarves. The inscriptions glowed with a fiery radiance, resembling molten lava. However, the inscriptions in the book crafted by the blacksmiths of the Withering Empire appeared rather dim, seemingly lacking anything extraordinary. But Yi Han knew better. The nation has the ability to present this advanced knowledge directly to its people. The content within is anything but simple. As expected, upon opening the inner page, the nation also provided annotations regarding the Withered Empire. Yi Han only had a basic understanding of it. The revival stone originated from this empire. At the very least, it is connected to him. The nation, however, conducted thorough investigations to learn more. This empire was incredibly powerful. At its peak, it even went head-to-head with the demon race, the god race and other top-tier races in direct confrontations. Everything originating from the Withering Empire, after being passed down to the present day, is essentially on an extraordinary level, including the Resurrection Stone, along with dozens of other items, without a single exception. These are the nation's most valuable assets. And at this moment, in front of him, lies an advanced forging manual from the fallen empire. In the end, the nation only pointed out one drawback, which is that this book has no follow-up content. No one knows what benefits it might bring after studying it. This is the only copy. Even if someone learns from it, it would still only pertain to the fallen empire. The insights left behind by one of the blacksmiths. They have no idea which blacksmith the origin can be traced to. The history of the Withering Empire can only be pieced together from fragmented words. Even the king's name was not recorded, let alone the name of an unknown blacksmith. Yi Han can carefully choose what to learn. Reading up to this point, Yi Han felt a bit hesitant. This book seems to be quite remarkable. After all, the Fallen Empire, a legendary empire. The things it left behind were of exceptional quality. Naturally, having a forging manual left behind proves that the skill level of the blacksmith must have been remarkable. But the issue is, this is the only one, and there are no further advanced techniques available, which means later on, he will need to learn advanced knowledge from other forging clans. Starting out will always lag behind a bit. Even the content inside isn't guaranteed. 4 options placed in front of Yi Han. Yi Han hesitated for a moment. In the end, he still placed his hand on the advanced knowledge of the forging master from the Withering Empire. I'll choose him. Principal. In fact, these advanced knowledge levels are still unknown, because his rank doesn't allow him access to view them. Leaf Han made his selection, and it was clearly visible. He nodded in agreement as well. Alright, go ahead and start learning. All the materials you need are right here. Learning advanced knowledge requires more than just a single book. It also needs the right combination of various materials. For instance, certain magical stones and mixtures may be necessary. For example, when a combat profession studies as a fire mage, it requires fire element magic stones to harness the fire elements within oneself. Additional reagents are needed to transform the blood, making oneself more attuned to fire element magic. Yi Han was no exception. The advancement materials are simply those listed above. The nation had already gathered them for him. Yi Han placed one hand on the book, while using the materials with the other hand. A series of glowing inscriptions appeared immediately. The entire room was enveloped in complete darkness. Yi Han seemed to catch a glimpse of a figure from behind. He gazed at himself intently. He nodded silently to himself. Yi Han successfully advanced to the next level. Yi Han, level 10. 1000/1000 Holy Forge Master. Health, 1000, attack power, 50, attack speed. Movement speed. Energy, 500, skill enhancement. Forging blueprint for the Scythe of Death. Upgrading has a chance to increase the level of equipment by 1. Alternatively, merging may grant additional attributes. Forging requires a forging manual and materials. There is a chance to successfully forge a piece of equipment. Alternatively, attrition may grant certain attributes. Special attributes. Divine Forging and Holy Crafting. With Divine Forging, all your upgraded and forged equipment will succeed without fail. It is guaranteed to provide additional attributes and extra entries. There is a chance to enhance the equipment's level. There is a possibility of obtaining special attributes and unique entries. Divine Forging applies to all the equipment you strengthen and forge. You may have a chance to receive a divine blessing. It seems like you've activated cheats too. Crafted by an unknown blacksmith. Yi-Han was stunned. Whenever Yi-Han was in doubt, it wasn't something he possessed. The issue lies with this blacksmith. That glance from the person in the shadows. The two seemed to share the same space. Moreover, he was actually able to speak a sentence on his own interface, although it vanished in an instant. Yi-Han clearly saw it happen. This means the other person managed to communicate with him. Even though it was just a simple sentence, it left Yi-Han feeling even more speechless. How's it going? Has the attribute increased? Any noticeable differences? The principal asked about it. He has also studied advanced knowledge. Basically, it's like suddenly gaining a lot of abilities in the mind. Yi-Han felt the same way. His head feels very itchy. It seems like something is growing, but it didn't take long to get used to it. Which blacksmith is that from? The weapons and equipment crafted by them. Yet there's some confusion. Just thinking about the items made by that blacksmith, it seems like I've never heard of it before. It just feels a bit unbelievable. Dragon Hunter set and Divine Tribe set. The Demon God set is something I can forge. Unlike the class advancements of others. Yi-Han seemed to instantly grasp the concept. Of all the forging experience from that particular blacksmith, logically speaking, Yi-Han shouldn't be able to handle such advanced and powerful knowledge progression. Because when a level 10 professional is learning their various abilities, have not yet reached the attributes required for higher level skills, so they can only learn a limited portion. But Yi-Han seemed to feel he had instantly mastered all the knowledge of that blacksmith, as if he had learned everything there was to know. But when he thought about that blacksmith, and the simple words he had said, Yi-Han came to terms with it. Could there still be some overpowered individuals like this? Yi-Han had no idea what that blacksmith from thousands or even tens of thousands of years ago looked like, nor what kind of person they were back then. But the fact that their advanced knowledge has been preserved to this day, I'm afraid he might also be quite formidable. He glanced back at his own panel. Nothing else seemed to have changed. From the principal's perspective, based on his experience, after advancing in learning more complex knowledge, the panel's attributes are expected to undergo some adjustments. But Yi-Han's panel didn't show any, so he simply shook his head. There really wasn't much of a difference. It just added a new attribute. What kind of attribute? The principal was puzzled. It added a new attribute called Divine Forging. Yi-Han directly explained the entry. But this entry was very vague. Neither the principal nor teacher Su could understand it. The principal had no choice but to take out a piece of equipment and a strengthening stone. Let's give it a try. I'll record it and we'll see. Yi-Han picked up a long sword. It was just an ordinary black iron grade longsword. A warrior's long sword. Black iron grade, wearable at level 1. Attack power increased by 5. Yi-Han immediately picked it up and placed it into the forging space. The interface suddenly displayed a notification. The current item's level is too low. Holy Forging will consume a large amount of energy. Proceed with enhancement. Yi-Han frowned. A surge of energy. He recalled that during the previous enhancement, his energy had not changed in the slightest. Now, energy is required. Yi-Han curiously clicked to proceed. He watched as his energy was instantly drained. The current energy can only sustain. Unable to achieve the full effect of Divine Forging. Choose now to finalize the process, or decide to keep enhancing. This time, Yi-Han didn't select to continue. It was merely a test item. He directly took it out. Demon Hunter's Sword. Silver grade, wearable at level 1. Attack power increased by 50. Enhancement level increased by 1. Skill, Demon Hunt. Demon Hunters deal an additional 1% damage to demonic creatures. The Holy Forging effect grants the title of Holy Demon Hunter. The Holy Demon Hunter inflicts increased damage on demonic creatures. It causes demonic creatures to suffer a reduction of 10 health points. Non-holy tier special effects can never be restored. Holding this long sword, even Yi-Han found it terrifying. What does it mean when sustained damage is irrecoverable? After gaining a rough understanding, he came to understand. In other words, as long as a monster is struck by this sword, it will continuously lose health, and any special effects of the same tier below divine level will remain permanently irrecoverable. The divine level effect is somewhat similar to the staff previously enchanted for the principal. In the same way, it needs abilities with special attributes like infernal or divine. Only then can this injury be healed. If it's an ordinary monster, it's like taking damage as soon as it makes contact, and the damage continues until death occurs. This sword can be described as a powerful weapon against magical creatures. It's practically a devastating tool. What's even more astonishing is, Yi-Han recalled the notification on the interface, and this is when his energy is still insufficient, unable to forge the complete effect of divine crafting. If it were complete, it would be incredibly overwhelming. Even just like this. After Yi-Han handed the demon hunter's sword to the headmaster, he was shocked upon seeing it. This divine enhancement is unbelievably powerful. He didn't understand it before, but now it seems absolutely terrifying. As for the added demon hunting attributes, that must have been something Yi-Han could accomplish before advancing, and he was able to do it. After advancing, he added the attribute listed below. Thinking of this, he immediately put away his longsword, then turned to Mr. Su and said, "Mr. Su, make sure to keep Yi safe. Stay with him for the next few days. Yi, you shouldn't go home either. Just stay on campus for now. I'll head to the provincial office now to see what their opinion is." Su Qilan nodded slightly. He didn't notice any specific effect of the sword, but it seemed significant enough to leave the headmaster deeply impressed. It seems Yi-Han's progression is anything but ordinary. Yi-Han agreed as well. After all, he hasn't had much to do these past few days. Yesterday, his younger sister went back to school again. Their parents weren't home, so his sister has mostly been staying in the dorms. Additionally, Yi-Han also needs to take the exam. It's uncertain where he will be placed after the exam. Should I talk to the higher-ups about it? And see if Yi-Han can be enrolled in St. Magic University? The question is whether the higher-ups will approve. They probably will. A few hours later, the principal brought the recording, along with the demon hunter's sword enhanced by Yi-Han, and delivered it to the provincial office. After reviewing the situation, a meeting was held again. Then a reply was given to the principal, saying it would take a few more days. An important figure will be coming to inspect. This time, it will determine the specific way Yi-Han should be nurtured. At this moment, Yi-Han wasn't idle either. He was assigned to stay in the school's classroom dormitory. The classroom dormitory. Essentially, it's a place for teachers to rest at school. And it's here. There are also various specialized classrooms that can only be used within the school. For example, there's a combat room, an alchemy research room, and a magic research room. Of course, there is also a forging research room. Mr. Su, needing to stay close to protect him, because of Yi-Han, could not leave the school. So, he simply decided to take him on a tour around. Soon, they entered the forging research room. Inside, there were various materials used by blacksmiths. There was also a massive bookshelf. Above, there are all sorts of books related to forging. Then Yi-Han suddenly remembered. After his advancement, there was still something he hadn't checked. It was the first blueprint he obtained after leveling up. So Yi-Han opened the panel again. And then he looked at the blueprint of the Reaper's Scythe. Attributes: Reaper's Scythe Blueprint, King Tier. Required level, level 10. Attack power, plus 1000. Penetration, 10%, skill, Reaper. The Grim Reaper inflicts an execution effect on non-divine creatures with less than 10% health. Delivers an instant kill effect. Required materials: Nightstone, Enchanted Stone. Blood from level 10 creatures forms 1000 petals of the other shoreflower. Yi-Han was utterly shocked. What kind of heaven-defying attribute is this? Keep in mind that Yi-Han only reached level 10, and his attack power on the stats panel was just 50. This directly adds 1000. Plus, he also had a piece of forging equipment, the Fire Hammer. That piece of equipment also increases attack power by 1100. However, Yi-Han immediately noticed. It was the original attribute provided only when upgraded to plus 10. It's estimated to provide just 100 attack power. To upgrade a piece of equipment to plus 10, how many materials would it take? Looking at the staff the principal had given him earlier, it's clear that just the reinforcement materials alone Took the principal several years to gather. And it's only enhanced to level 7. Reaching level 10. The required materials will increase exponentially. This is also the reason why very few people opt for high-level enhancements. Even more astonishing, the only unique ability of this weapon is execution. On creatures below 10%, it directly triggers an execution effect. Of course, it states this excludes creatures above divine level. However, wanting to encounter a god-level creature at level 10 might be wishful thinking. That seems overly optimistic. Yihan hasn't heard anything so far about what kind of creature qualifies as god level. Even the 79 level strongest figure in Dixia has never been said to have reached god level. According to Yihan's estimation, it's likely that only upon reaching level 100 will one truly understand what a god level creature is. In other words, all creatures that Yihan is aware of now can basically be taken down with one strike as long as their health drops below 10%. Almost every one of them can be instantly killed in a single blow. It's no wonder this weapon is called the Reaper. The blueprint he gambled on is absolutely terrifying. Just selling the blueprint alone could probably fetch millions. A blueprint like this can only produce one weapon. Once the weapon is forged, the blueprint disappears entirely. This is why blueprints for blacksmiths are so expensive. They essentially function as consumable items. Of course, as long as this weapon is created, it would be enough to astonish everyone. It's just that the material requirements for it left Yihan a bit puzzled. What exactly are Dark Knight Stone and Demonized Stone? 10th level creature blood multiplied by 1000. Probably means killing 1000 creatures to gather enough. That part seems easy enough. Maybe killing chickens would work. At worst, just buy 1000 portions of chicken blood to use instead. What exactly are the petals of the other shore? So Yihan asked Mr. Su. Have you ever heard of the Stone of the Night, teacher? Why do you need this thing? Mr. Su paused for a moment, then looked at Yihan with a wary expression. Yihan actually didn't have much hope, but the way Mr. Su responded made it seem like he knew something. You know what I mean. Every smith advancing in their craft gets a blueprint. I acquired a blueprint for a weapon. The forging materials listed on it include this one. After hearing this, Mr. Su nodded. This Nightstone is somewhat tricky. It comes from a dungeon. It can actually be found in the outside world too. Originating from the Western world, a place overtaken by monsters. The dungeon is the level 30 Night Castle, including the place that was overtaken by the Western world. This refers to the Dark Knight creatures area. Most of them are creatures above level 30. And this type of stone is considered a rare item within. It's quite hard to obtain. Yihan understood the situation. It's surprisingly troublesome. He suddenly thought of an idea. What if I applied for it? Would the government approve it? Mr. Su's eyes also lit up. Maybe it's possible. Yihan wanted to give it a try too. Even though he had enhanced several pieces of equipment, he didn't have a single piece of gear he had forged himself. The main issue was the materials needed for forging equipment. They were usually quite numerous. Take this time, for instance. Even Teacher Su found gathering those materials troublesome, let alone Yihan himself. But now Yihan had the backing of the nation. As long as the nation possesses the materials, they can generally be utilized. So Yihan picked up the phone to call the principal. The other side was still in a meeting. When they heard Yihan needed materials, they assumed it was for some kind of enhancement. The principal agreed right away. That is, until he heard the name of the item Yihan needed. He was drinking water at the time and spat it out immediately. What made it awkward was, sitting in front of him was none other than He Shanshuan, the provincial minister of education. He Shanshuan wiped the tea stains off his face. With a twitch at the corner of his mouth, he addressed Principal Shang. What could possibly make you so unsettled? It's Yihan. Student Yi needs a few documents. Could you see if you can approve them for him? When He Shanshuan heard it was Yihan who needed help, he didn't hesitate. He agreed right away. Isn't it just a few documents? You can just approve them directly. I'll issue an approval note for you. Then the principal began to list the names of the documents. Like that Nightfall Stone. Do you even know the output of that dungeon? It's barely 100 or so in a year. And quite a lot of gear needs them. Not to mention all these other materials of yours. Red Spider Lily Petals. That only drops in level 60 death dungeons. He Shanshuan was completely stunned. What kind of equipment is this meant to enhance? It actually requires materials of this caliber. That's what Yihan needs. The principal's single statement helped He Shanshuan calm down. If it's for Yi, it's not entirely impossible. After giving it some thought, He Shanshuan still decided to agree to it. I'll approve it right now. But what he plans to create, he intends to show us later. He Shanshuan is also curious. With so many rare materials, what kind of equipment is Yihan planning to craft? The next day, Yihan received 2 boxes, both labeled as classified materials, and they were specially delivered by a postal agent. One of the large boxes contained 100 samples of fresh blood from different creatures. The small box contains those special materials. He picked up the blood of various creatures. Yihan felt something different. This blood wasn't what he had imagined. The blood of ordinary creatures. Yihan looked at the label on the reagent belt. Hellhound blood. The other labels also listed samples of blood from various demonic creatures. It seems the nation had taken this into consideration. Blood might have an impact on the quality of the equipment. Went out of the way to obtain high-grade biological blood. Yihan murmured to himself. Even he hadn't anticipated this. Earlier, he had considered simply using 100 portions of chicken blood. It seems this material isn't as simple as it looks. Once all the materials were gathered, Yihan immediately began forging. During his first forging attempt, Yihan couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Mr. Su stood by, watching as well. An entire day passed. He didn't leave the whole time. After all, he needed to protect student Yi. What he didn't know was, a group of covert guards was also stationed around the school to protect him. The forging process began. Yihan silently recited in his mind. After Yihan threw the materials into the forging space, half a day had passed. There wasn't a single sound inside. He only noticed after taking a closer look. The scythe of death was only halfway formed. It was at this moment that he realized. He guessed that the higher the level of the equipment, the longer it would take to forge and enhance. And it seemed the scythe of death would take about a day to complete. So he decided to go straight to sleep. When the next day arrived, the very first moment he woke up, looking into the forging space, the words "forging successful" appeared on the panel. He immediately took it out to examine. He instantly gasped in shock. Blueprint of Nightshade Scythe, legendary level. Required level, 10. Attack power, plus 1000. Piercing rate, 10%. Skill, Reaper. Nightshade Lord. Reaper skill targets creatures below god level with less than 10% health. Triggers an execution effect. When the Night Lord is active at night, increases attack power by 10%. While in the shadowed night state, under the moonlight, boosts attack power by 20%. The Holy Forging effect, Shadowed Night. When in the shadowed night state, every 60 seconds, the base attack power of this weapon increases by 1%. Extreme and utterly extreme. Yihan had more or less anticipated that the weapons he forged would come with additional effects. After all, the previous designs were only at the basic king level, but he hadn't expected that once forged, they would instantly gain an entire tier upgrade and become legendary class. He had never heard of a legendary artifact wearable at level 10. Not even the forging hammer provided by the nation. They are merely at the obsidian level. He directly pulled out a legendary level item. Isn't this a bit too incredible? However, Yihan himself seemed quite pleased. He was even feeling a little overconfident. The more aggressive the approach, the more satisfying it felt. Yet Yihan still reminded himself to stay cautious. He couldn't afford to get too carried away. After all, he wasn't someone with a combat profession. At most, this weapon could only add 1 point to his combat power. As for other professions, they can directly use skills to boost combat power. Looking again at the newly forged Nightshade Lotus, the more I look, the more pleasing it becomes, especially with its divine forging effect. Basking under the moonlight, it surprisingly increases attack power by 1% every 60 seconds. What kind of concept is this? After 1 hour, it can enhance attack power by 60%. An hour and a half. A little more attack power, and it doubles. When fighting against others or yourself, hiding on the side and waiting for a few hours. Wouldn't that multiply the combat power several times? Engaging in battles with others. This is absolutely incredible. And this is the Nightshade Lotus before any upgrades. If upgraded, who knows what kind of effect it might achieve. When Yihan looked at the enhancement materials for the Night Lotus of Serenity, He realized that this item might not be so easy to enhance, since the enhancement materials were actually twice the amount of forging materials, and the materials required for subsequent enhancements would increase exponentially, which means that by the time he enhances it 10 times, the materials needed would directly multiply to 1024 times. Just forging this weapon alone was already something he couldn't handle. The materials still need to be allocated by the state. If additional time is required to strengthen them, it's uncertain whether the state can handle it, but that's not something he needs to worry about. Yihan briefly explained the situation to Teacher Su. He also has no idea how much material the state can provide, but considering the situation, even Teacher Su thought the original materials were extremely valuable. It's likely not easy to obtain them, so Yihan directly called the headmaster's phone. This time, when the call connected, it was He Shanshuan who answered. "Hello, student Yi. How is the weapon you forged coming along? If it didn't succeed, we support you in trying again. We've also prepared some materials for you." He Shanshuan was still in a meeting with the principal. The day before yesterday, he heard that Yihan wanted to forge his own weapon. He also understood that this was a blueprint Yihan won through a gamble. He didn't specifically ask about the details with He Shan-sun. After all, every blueprint a blacksmith wins from gambling belongs solely to themselves. It was only through the materials Yihan needed that He Shan-sun felt Yihan's blueprint must be of a fairly high grade. It's likely a weapon of the Black Radiance level. These were just He Shan-sun's optimistic guesses. He never even considered it could be at the king level. Even He Shanshuan suspected that Yihan might fail on his first attempt at forging, which is why they decided to prepare for it. They even made sure to have a backup set of materials ready. Yihan was deeply moved by this thoughtfulness. He Shanshuan had gone ahead and prepared a second set of materials for him early on. The attempt was successful, and the final product was completed. The result turned out to be fairly decent. Yihan wasted no time and spoke up directly. He expressed his thoughts with clarity and confidence. The entire process showcased his determination and skill. Impressive, it succeeded on the first forging attempt. It seems like Ye's talent is truly extraordinary. He Shan-sun praised generously. How effective is it? Is it obsidian-grade equipment? He felt a bit of anticipation. Obsidian-grade equipment with a level 10 requirement is typically obtained from dungeon drops. I wonder if Yihan will directly forge one. If even obsidian-grade weapons can be forged, it's possible that in the future, crafting king-level equipment directly could become a reality. There might even be a chance to create legendary-level gear. However, Yihan glanced at the equipment in his hand and immediately dismissed the idea. This Nightshade Lotus is definitely not obsidian-grade. He Shanshuan let out a sigh. As expected, his expectations had been too high, but he didn't let this discourage him. He decisively said, "Actually, forging diamond and gold level equipment on the first try is already impressive. It's quite an achievement. Even though your talent trait includes a 100% forging success rate, it still hasn't been tested to see if it directly works on high-level equipment. Actually, you can take it step by step. Don't rush into things too quickly. Biting off more than you can chew won't help." He spoke with an incredibly calm and steady tone. It was entirely about considering Yihan's feelings. However, Yihan felt no pressure at all. This blueprint is at a king-level standard. But after I forged it, it turned into a legendary item. A legendary item is already quite impressive. He Shanshuan continued with his comforting words. Completely unaware that something seemed off, the principal sitting next to him suddenly stood up. "Wait, what did you just say? A piece of legendary-level equipment?" Having just realized what happened, He Shan-sun suddenly stood up. The corner of his mouth twitched. He always assumed on the high end, guessing Yihan's weapon might be obsidian level. The idea of it being king level was beyond his imagination, because that simply has never existed before. Unexpectedly, Yihan's blueprint turned out to truly be king level. Even more astonishingly, after Yihan forged it, it leveled up and became legendary level. He made a swallowing motion, cautiously asked a question. "Could you explain the attributes of that gear?" Blueprints obtained from the blacksmith's progression are typically used by the blacksmith. Of course, this doesn't include those who advance their profession, specifically for the purpose of gambling for blueprints. Since only one blueprint is available, it disappears immediately after forging, and Essentially, every blueprint created by a blacksmith is always the one that suits them best. It's true that blacksmiths lack combat abilities, but the blueprints they forge are always tailored to fit them perfectly, making them extremely handy to use. Moreover, the blueprints made by blacksmiths are always aligned with their own level. That's why River Shan Xuandu didn't even need to ask to recognize that Yi Han's blueprint was his own. The required level to equip is set at level 10. As for the blacksmith's own gear, it typically ends up becoming their family heirloom. It's not the kind of item that gets sold to others, unless it's gifted to someone they are closest to. That's why Hashan cautiously decided to ask about it. This taboo, even though all the materials were approved by him before being given to Yi Han. Yi Han didn't really care much about it. Simply explained the effect of the Night Lotus directly. Shanshuan's body wavered slightly. He even thought he must have misheard it. The exclamations were loud enough to almost blow the roof off. What did you just say? Are you sure about the 10% execution effect? The corners of Shanshuan's mouth twitched. He was already imagining how outrageous this weapon could be. Yi Han had never experienced frontline combat. He had no idea just how broken this attribute truly was. Due to exploring high-level dungeons in depth, Shan Sun is aware that many dungeon bosses, when their health drops to between 30% and 1%, will enter a berserk phase. In many situations, the national dungeon raid teams often find it hard to respond effectively during the boss's berserk phase, especially when it comes to bosses with less than 10% health remaining, which are the most annoying. It's easy to imagine. The team put in a lot of effort to take on a boss after countless struggles, using every possible strategy to fight back, and managed to push the opponent down to just 10% health. Victory seemed to be just within reach, when the opponents suddenly powered up out of nowhere, and even had the ability to instantly restore their health completely, quickly returning to a state of full strength, making all the previous attacks completely useless. Who wouldn't feel frustrated in that situation? For instance, the guaranteed poison ring given by Yi Han. The one that was defeated had the ancient poison healing effect. If it weren't for the guaranteed poison ring directly reducing health by percentage, it might not have been possible to take it down. Some bosses are even more frustrating. They can fully restore health even when their HP is at 1%. That's when you truly feel defeated mentally. And it's not just bosses. In high-level dungeons, even elite monsters have the ability to regenerate health. So when they heard about Yi Han's execution-related attribute, the Shanshuan couldn't stay calm. Even the Shanshuan found it hard to sit still. In fact, weapons with execution-related attributes do exist. The country does possess such weapons. After all, most people in the world have professions. There are always some lucky individuals who manage to obtain weapons with execution-related attributes. However, all of those weapons come with limitations. For instance, the user's level must be higher than the opponent's, or they can only execute under specific conditions. Typically, it's only when the health drops below 1% to 5% that execution is possible. That's when the ability to finish off the target comes into play. However, if a player's level surpasses the threshold, it becomes an outright massacre. Once you reach higher levels, in dungeons ranging from level 30 to 60, the bosses inside these instances are all above level 60, and the players allowed to enter can only reach a maximum level of 60. How are you supposed to deal with that? Now that Yi Han has the Nightshade Lotus, the outcome is completely different. Shanshuan can hardly wait to find Yi Han right now and take that Nightshade Lotus from him. But after thinking it over, he decided to calm down. Afterward, Shanshuan composed himself and cautiously asked, "Yi, my classmate, do you think you could possibly lend us your weapon so we can use it for a while? Of course, we won't use it for free. Tell us what you need. Whatever you ask for, we will provide. Feel free to make your request, and we'll make sure to fulfill it." Compared to this weapon, Shan values Yi Han as a person even more. The first blueprint is already this extreme. No one knows what Yi Han will achieve after reaching level 20. It's hard to imagine what blueprints might appear even up to level 60. Even he doesn't dare to think about whether there's a chance for an artifact. Yi Han had no idea how desperately Shanshuan yearned for it. He was aware that his weapon was quite powerful, but just how powerful it truly was remained unclear. He had no sense of it. After all, Yi Han had never experienced a real battle. and he was unfamiliar with the data of the Great Xia. But since He Shanshuan only mentioned borrowing it, he didn't give it much thought. Borrowing it was fine, of course. As long as it was returned, it didn't matter. Still, I want to enhance it a bit more. This piece of equipment requires some materials. As for upgrading equipment, Hashan Sun will certainly make it happen. A weapon with one-hit kill capability. No amount of upgrades would be too much. Thinking back to Yi Han's enhancement effects, this weapon could potentially become even more insane. Enhancing it is absolutely necessary. Why not just push it straight to +10 enhancement? The material requirements might be a bit extensive, but I'll clarify it as mentioned above. He Shanshuan understands this well. Compared to those materials, borrowing this weapon is far more important. Holding this weapon in hand, who knows how many first clears of dungeons it could achieve. Maybe those outdated dungeons from years ago can now be cleared for first wins in batches. This is all within He Shanshuan's imagination. He is aware that enhancement materials grow exponentially. Most weapon enhancements follow this principle. This is also why low-level weapons are rarely chosen for enhancement, because it's unnecessary. And the exponential increase in enhancement materials also depends on the type of materials required, and how much is needed in his estimation. The materials for the first enhancement surely can't exceed the amount needed to forge the weapon itself. Usually, this only happens during the 5th enhancement, when it finally matches the forging materials, which means Yi Han would only need dozens of forging materials at most. Thinking back to the materials Yi Han requested earlier, although they were valuable, dozens of materials wouldn't be unaffordable. He just didn't expect Yi Han to ask for so many. What, using twice the materials just for the first enhancement? You must be joking. The first time it doubled. Wait until the reinforcement overtime. Wouldn't it cost nearly 2,000 units? If it weren't based on the principal's trust in Yi Han. Plus, Yi Han has teacher Su by his side for support. It's highly unlikely to be a lie. Even Shan Sun almost started to doubt whether Yi Han was trying to use this opportunity to get more materials. I reviewed the weapon reinforcement requirements. That's absolutely the case. If the materials are reduced, the effect might not be as good. Yi Han recalled the previous message about enhancing the Demon Hunter's sword. That piece of equipment wasn't fully enhanced. For the first weapon he forged using his blueprint, he still wanted to make it as perfect as possible. Deshan Sun gritted his teeth and said, "I'll go ask the higher-ups if they have enough materials. But even if they do, it's not possible to gather everything in a short period of time. It might take some time to coordinate. For now, just use the Night Tour Lotus. Wait until the materials arrive. Once you're done upgrading, we can borrow it again later." Xing Yi Han agreed to it. He hung up the phone. That should solve the material shortage. It was something he expected. The materials he needs are a bit excessive. Even the government would have to coordinate to get it done. Now Yi Han is also feeling a bit troubled. He's only at level 10. The first blueprint he managed to create is already this difficult to enhance. I can't imagine how terrifying the required materials will be at level 20. The amount of materials needed might be overwhelming. I don't even want to think about it, but it has nothing to do with me anyway. It's up to Yi Han to gather the materials himself. Just the first blueprint alone is daunting. He probably won't be able to gather enough in his lifetime. At this moment, he felt truly fortunate to have chosen the path of serving his country. Having the nation's support, the advantages are still quite evident. From here on, Yi Han had nothing else to do. The weapon had already been forged. He was admitted directly. There was absolutely no need for him to take any exams. He was still gathering the materials needed for reinforcement. For a moment, he had no idea what to do. Suddenly, he thought of the Midnight Lotus in his hand. His hands itched to try it out. After all, it was the first weapon he had ever forged himself, and it felt incredibly comfortable to wield. This reminded him of his battle with Su Hui. As a blacksmith, he had the heart of a warrior. "Professor Su, how about we explore the dungeon for a bit?" "No way, the principal instructed me to keep you safe. Don't wander around aimlessly." Mr. Su rejected it without a second thought. But at this moment, Yi Han's curiosity was piqued. How could he possibly hold back? "If it's no big deal, just say I was the one who ran first. You won't be able to keep up. The instance might be somewhat fabricated. Let's just head straight out of the city." By then, you can just say I ran out of the city. You followed me to protect me. Professor Su still refuses to agree. Yet Yi-han spoke again to Professor Su. Aren't you curious about the effects of this weapon? Why not take a look? Professor Su hasn't checked Yi-han's weapon yet. Now, anything related to Yi-han requires signing a confidentiality agreement. He was curious but kept holding back. Seeing Yi-han close his eyes on his own, he couldn't resist anymore. He had just heard Yi-han mention some of its attributes. He didn't pay close attention. He only caught that it was of legendary grade. It seemed to have an execution effect. He also realized this was likely an extraordinary weapon. As an ancient blade user, he had no ability to resist the allure of blades. A scythe is still considered a blade. He merely took it to glance at it. Even Mr. Su was astonished. What kind of bizarre attribute is this? Mr. Su suddenly realized. Why Yi-han was so eager to give it a try. Holding a weapon of this caliber in his hand, it would be strange not to try it. For a moment, even Mr. Su felt an itch to join in. Actually, he hadn't fought in years. His first battle in years was just a few days ago. He had taken Yi-han into a dungeon to level up. As a teacher, he simply had no time to run dungeons himself. At most, he just teaches students combat methods at school. You need to know that although he appears refined and calm, in reality, he is a rare combat professional known as an ancient blade master, the type who helps Yi-han level up. It even made him feel like it was one of the most exhilarating moments of his life. The kind of excitement he had never experienced before. Not even when he first awakened his abilities. At this moment, with power in his grasp, even Mr. Su couldn't help but want to give it a try. If it's you, Mr. Su, just agree to it. Why not give it a try once we're out of the city? You should test it out too. Yi-han was itching to give it a go. Mr. Su's eyes lit up with interest. Alright, after all, you're a blacksmith. The weapon you forged yourself. It definitely needs to be tested. This weapon is ridiculously powerful. The school's wooden dummies probably can't handle it. Fighting wild creatures might be a better option. Mr. Su came up with an excuse for himself. With this weapon in hand, if Yi-han finds himself in danger, holding onto it personally, even a level 20 warrior could be a match. It should provide some assurance. Within the school, the guards outside listened to the conversation inside, feeling a bit speechless. Do you think we should step in and stop them? That little guy and that teacher seem like they want to make an entrance. The covert guard held down his earpiece and communicated with the other covert guards. Well, after all, it's a blacksmith. Testing their own weapon isn't a bad idea. I just overheard them saying, that weapon is of legendary grade. It's been so many years. I still haven't seen what a legendary weapon looks like. Today is the first time I'm seeing one. Even the covert guards are curious. At this point, there's absolutely no one who can stop them. An hour later, they arrived outside the city. As for the instance, entering or leaving an instance requires keeping a record. If the principal and the others find out, Mr. Su took them into the instance for a trial. A scolding would be inevitable. Anyway, they only plan to test the weapons and then head back. The world outside the city is completely different from the one within. Don't be fooled into thinking it's simple for the principal and others to head to the provincial city. It was done at an incredibly fast pace. There was even a dedicated route for the journey. Support was provided along the way. In reality, after the game intersected with the real world, the wilderness practically turned into a haven for magical beasts. The wild plants and animals also began to mutate. Some of the plants and animals in urban areas even overtook entire cities, completely engulfing them. I heard that over in the cities of Nanyun province, more than 80% have been overrun by mutated plants and animals, with only a few cities left where powerful individuals are stationed. Since then, the entire nation has begun constructing city walls in every urban area. Back then, one of the most sought-after professions was construction. However, once the nation's infrastructure was mostly completed, this profession gradually fell out of favor. The outer city walls still have quite a few defensive arrays in place. Those, of course, were meant to guard against large-scale monster invasions. The restrictions imposed, the movement of ordinary people and low-level magical beasts, would hardly attract any attention. After all, a city is too vast. If every single area were to be perfectly secure, without leaving even the slightest flaw, that would be impossible to achieve. Yi-han and Teacher Su also exited without any issues. It was almost as if they were traveling along the city wall for several miles. This place is also very safe, because the protectors within the city would occasionally patrol around the city walls and immediately report any sightings of powerful beasts, so that someone could be called to handle them. This has resulted in the area around the walls having at most only a few scattered small-scale beasts. Yihan and teacher Su searched for a long time before finally locating a group of wild creatures, which turned out to be a pack of wild boars that had undergone mutations. The game data was displayed on Yihan's panel. It was named Bald Fong Hunting Pig, level 15. When seeing the level 15 wild monster, Mr. Su furrowed his brows. He was also at level 15. Even though he was equipped with golden gear from head to toe, he still couldn't guarantee that he could handle it. To play it safe, Yihan couldn't be exposed to any danger. Su Qilan suggested to Yihan that they should keep searching these wild boars. The level is way too high. I might be able to protect myself just fine. However, protecting you might be a bit challenging, even though there's only a 5-level difference with Mr. Su. However, Mr. Su is a combat profession. As for myself, it's simply a matter of pursuing an everyday career. It was only natural for Mr. Su to feel this way. Yihan needed to protect Ge by himself. Yihan glanced at his own status panel. The full set of equipment provided by the nation made his health points nearly 10,000, and boosted both his physical and magical defenses, with armor stats reaching into the thousands. In other words, without an attack power in the thousands, it's simply impossible to break through his defenses, even if they manage to penetrate, still having nearly 10,000 health left to withstand. On top of that, holding a weapon in hand with over 1,000 attack power, a hammer, a scythe, would he be scared of this? Then looking at the wild boar's stats, Toothless Hunting Boar, level 15, health points 3,000, physical defense 50, magical defense 10, attack power 500. Movement speed, attack speed, and energy 1000. Skill, charge, Fong Thrust, movement speed doubled. Deals an additional 50% of attack power as damage. Fong Thrust causes sharp fangs to protrude. Damage from the sharp fangs adds an extra 50% attack power. It's a bit outrageous. A weapon painstakingly created by oneself. It's basically just around a 10% boost in attack power. Meanwhile, these monsters easily gain a 50% increase. Is this the gap between combat professions and life professions? Yihan hasn't checked anyone else's stats yet. He doesn't know if human combat professions are the same, or if this only applies to beasts. After all, beasts don't equip any gear, whereas humans each have their own set of equipment. But even so, Yihan remains completely unfazed. A mere 50% damage boost. That wild boar's attack power is only 500. Even with an extra 50%, it can't break through his defense. What does he have to be afraid of? Still, Yihan nodded in agreement. Alright, let's keep searching. The main issue is that Mr. Su doesn't allow it. He doesn't tolerate even the slightest risk. But it's teachers like him who truly care about their students. Just as the two were about to leave, a wild boar suddenly launched an attack from behind Yihan and his companion. Mr. Su immediately sensed that something was wrong, and quickly pushed him aside. Be careful, Yihan. But just as Mr. Su pushed him away, several more wild boars launched their attack, charging straight towards Yihan. The hidden guards, who had been lying in wait, were ready to intervene. At that very moment, Yihan instinctively swung the scythe in his hand. The hammer and scythe flashed by. A few wild boars barely brushed against the scythe. In an instant, their tusks were severed. Then their heads and bodies were effortlessly sliced apart. They collapsed to the ground and died instantly. The secret guards hadn't even made a move yet. They had 1,000 ways to protect Yihan, making sure he wouldn't suffer any harm. But, unexpectedly, Yihan passively held the scythe to block the wild boar, rushed forward on his own, got instantly killed, defeated in a single strike. Whether it was the hidden guards lurking in the shadows, or teacher Su standing nearby, they all froze in place, stunned like statues. They had considered that Yihan's weapon might be powerful, but they had no idea it could be this overwhelming. That's a level 15 wild beast. Even a level 15 warrior couldn't possibly handle it this easily. Maybe the wild boar itself is the fiercest of all. The wild boar is dead. It was taken down in one strike. What else is there to say? Yi Han glanced down at his scythe, then looked at the wild boar that had been effortlessly sliced in half, and blinked innocently. However, the crisis is still far from over. A few wild boars continued their frantic charge. Realizing his immense strength, Yi Han was the first to react. In just one step, he positioned himself in front of Teacher Su and raised his scythe. That figure, in Su Qilan's eyes, seemed like the very embodiment of death itself. The scythe came down, like cutting through grass with ease. The charging wild boar was instantly taken down. This is a lifestyle profession. Why does it feel like they're even fiercer than us? These toothless wild boars are truly pitiful. A moment of silence. The hidden guard, about to reveal themselves, retreated back into the shadows, stared in disbelief as Yi Han defeated the monsters. The scythe effortlessly sliced through the skin and flesh, shattered the bones cleanly, in just the blink of an eye. This small group of wild boars was completely wiped out. The scene was extremely gruesome. The wild boars were left in pieces, not a single intact body remained. The bloody sight was enough to churn anyone's stomach. There were even a few pieces of equipment that dropped. Aside from dungeon rewards, equipment can also be crafted. Monsters also have a chance to drop equipment. However, the drop rate is relatively low, and the equipment that drops is usually low level. Fortunately, Yi Han had previously followed Teacher Su into dungeons. I've grown somewhat accustomed to scenes like this. Mr. Su, are you okay? He turned around and asked with concern. Su Qilan suddenly snapped out of it, feeling deeply guilty in her heart. What am I doing? I was supposed to be protecting Yi. How did it end up with him protecting me instead? No, I'm fine. How are you so strong? After realizing what had happened, Su Qilan quickly asked. Even with his full set of gold-tier equipment, it would still take a lot of effort to eliminate these wild boars. But Yi Han, being just a life profession, managed to take down a group of wild boars in no time. It was absolutely mind-blowing. Yi Han scratched his head, looking at the sickle and hammer in his hands. It immediately reminded him of a certain socialist country. He spoke instinctively. Perhaps this is the strength of the working class. Jokes aside, the two began to think seriously. Technically, Yi Han is only at level 10. Most of his equipment primarily boosts health points. It only adds a small amount of attributes. The real issue lies in the weapon. The attack power of the forged flame hammer and the scythe of death. Combined, it reaches 2,100. It also adds a 10% penetration effect. The wild boar's defense is far too weak to withstand the attack, including your own attributes and the execution effect. Instant kills make perfect sense in this context, Su Qilan said with a serious expression. Speaking of which, you're in a life-related profession. You don't really need to worry about weapon specialization. Equip everything you can use. It even leaves main combat professions in the dust. Human professions differ after awakening. The weapons used are naturally different. Imagining a mage wielding a machete to attack. Just thinking about it feels a bit bizarre. Each class uses distinct types of weapons. The level of weapon mastery also varies. However, life professions don't require weapon mastery. This detail can be completely ignored. That's exactly right. Yi Han immediately became excited. By then, he could carry several weapons with him. The attack power still doesn't completely dominate the main combat classes. A true resin monster through and through. Yi Han's once dormant warrior spirit has started beating once again. Principal, I think I can now fully handle grinding monsters in the wild on my own. Leveling up is even faster than running dungeons. Realizing I could become a resin monster. No matter what kind of monster it is, I can crush them all with ease along the way. Yi Han made a call to the principal. After all, he had already dedicated himself to the country. It's always a good idea to seek approval when something comes up. The principal stroked his beard, looking quite conflicted. After all, Yi Han was now his prized student. He was worried about even the slightest loss. At that moment, Su Qilan's voice also came through the phone. The principal, everything is fine. I'm here too. Besides, Yi is truly very capable. No matter how strong a career or profession is, it has its limits. How strong could it possibly get? The principal's habitual way of thinking seems to be at play. However, with Su Qilan providing close protection nearby, along with the secret guards sent from the province, there shouldn't be any major issues. Alright, but safety must always come first. In the next couple of days, an important figure will arrive in Linghai. Yi-Han cannot afford to make even the slightest mistake. Yi-Han and Su Qilan. And so began the journey of grinding monsters in the wild. After entering the dungeon, even though Yi-Han could gain most of the experience points, he still had to share some with Su Qilan. Besides, the dungeon was only level 10. At this point, Yi-Han would head to the wild and target level 15 monsters for practice, taking them down in a single strike every time. His leveling speed surged rapidly. It only took 2 days. Yi-Han had already reached level 13. The wild monsters they were looking for were no longer limited to level 15, so they ventured a bit deeper into the outskirts. The wild monsters here were around levels 17 or 18. Be cautious. If we go any deeper, we might encounter level 20 wild monsters. Su Qilan reminded them. Don't worry, Miss Su. I'm not foolish. Yi-Han smiled. These level 17 wild monsters can no longer be taken down in a single blow. It now takes 2 strikes to defeat them. So Yi-Han had no intention of provoking level 20 monsters for the time being. However, their leveling activities couldn't stay hidden for long, especially from those who are particularly observant. Not far away, someone had found them. A pair of spiteful eyes was fixed on Yi-Han as he fought monsters. The person was none other than Su Hui. Jealousy burned in his heart to the point of madness. Why does Yi-Han get a guaranteed spot at St. Magic University? He's just someone with a lifestyle profession. Why does Yi-Han get to team up with the beautiful teacher to hunt monsters? All of this should have been mine. Driven by this kind of mindset, his actions gradually became irrational. After learning that Yi-Han went to the outskirts to hunt wild monsters, a dangerous thought crossed his mind. Will this actually work? Su Hui was followed by 2 mercenaries at level 20. He paid to hire them. At this moment, the mercenaries were still feeling worried. After all, going against their fellow humans is no small offense. Just do what you're told. It's only about luring the wild creatures over. Who would know it was us who did it? Su Hui said with a vicious tone. The 2 mercenaries took the money. They gritted their teeth and agreed. They quickly disappeared from sight. They ventured into the deeper area where level 20 wild monsters resided. But they weren't there to slay monsters. Instead, they were there to lure them. After provoking a group of level 20 blackhorn bulls, they turned around and fled. The direction they ran toward was exactly where Yi-Han was leveling up. The ground began to tremble. What's going on? Yi-Han, who had just slain a small monster, looked up. His face was filled with confusion. Oh no, get out of here quickly. Su Qilan's face changed instantly, rushing toward them at full speed. But it's a level 20 Blackhorn Wild Bull. The Blackhorn Wild Bull is at level 20. It has 8,000 hit points. Physical defense is 100. Magical defense is 100. Attack power is 1000. Movement speed is 8. Attack speed energy reaches 2000. The skill is Wild Bull Charge Gale. Yi-Han finally saw the introduction of this group of wild bulls. His heart skipped a beat in an instant. Just the 8,000 health points and 1,000 attack power are enough to make many frontline classes tremble in fear. But usually, these black horned bulls are found deep inside. Why did they suddenly appear here? There was no time to think further. Su Qilan quickly fled with Yi-Han, but their movement speed was no match for the charging bull. They were quickly caught in the blink of an eye. In an instant, they were overtaken. Yi-Han, you go first. I'll stay behind to cover you. Su Qilan shoved Yi-Han aside with force. She drew her long sword. Her face was resolute as she stood firmly in front of Yi-Han. After all, Yi-Han was someone in a non-combat profession. He was tasked with protecting Yi-Han. We must not allow Yi-Han to suffer any loss. But, unexpectedly, Yi-Han did not run away. Instead, he went over to Su Qilan's side. Why aren't you leaving? Su Qilan urged Yi-Han to go. If Yi-Han were to die, he would be blamed for it. But Yi-Han pointed toward the sky. Mr. Su, it's already dark. Let's see if Yi-Han can survive this time. Su Hui burst into wild laughter. He refused to believe it. There's no way a group of level 20 monsters couldn't kill Yi-Han. Just the thought of Yi-Han dying. It meant he would take the top spot, and surely gain the favor of the Holy Magic Academy. This filled him with uncontrollable excitement. But just as he was about to leave, he turned around and found himself staring into 2 furious eyes. The 2 glared at Su Hui with intense anger. As if Su Hui was their sworn enemy, Su Hui felt an overwhelming pressure from both of them. This made his heart skip a beat. He couldn't help but feel a sudden jolt of unease. These two individuals were clearly level 30 or higher. In this small city of Linhai, how could such powerful figures suddenly appear? What Su Hui didn't know was that these two people, they are probably just two of the many strong individuals protecting Ihan. Could it be that you've misunderstood something? I'm merely passing by. Su Hui's lips were dry. She could barely speak. There was no confidence in her voice as she passed by.